My ex-girlfriend opened up 2 credit cards in my name after we broke up. She ran up about $7,500 in debt, mainly shopping at Nordstrom and Macy's. Her current boyfriend is now threatening me. My ex and I broke up a little more than a year ago. We lived together for a couple of years, and I know she would have had access to my financial information. When we broke up, I moved out of the house we were renting, and I thought I had everything fine. Back in February, when I was doing my taxes, I realized I couldn't find my folder with my previous year's tax returns anywhere. I assumed it got lost in the move, and I didn't think anything else of it. Last Friday, I got served for a lawsuit to the tune of over $5,000 for a defaulted credit card. When I went and actually pulled my credit, I saw that card had been defaulted since May, and there was another one which had been closed since June for about $2,500. Seeing as I had no knowledge of this, I immediately disputed both of the accounts on all 3 bureaus' websites. I was able to talk with someone for one of the cards, and they said it was opened in January, well after I had moved out of my old house, and the cards were sent there. I received the statements from the one card, and it was probably 80% Nordstrom, Macy's, 2 of the stores that my ex loved shopping at. I'm pretty sure that she was the one who opened the accounts, probably used my social security number from the old tax returns. I called my ex about it, and she denied everything. Even when I told her that eventually, if she had anything shipped to the house using a stolen credit card, she's going to get found out. She flipped and started screaming at me, saying I can't seriously accuse her of anything and to never talk to her again. About 20 minutes later, I get a call from a blocked number. That was her boyfriend, threatening to make my life a living hell unless I stopped harassing her by claiming that she stole my identity. He hung up, but I was shaken up about it. I can see that he's got some serious felonies just by looking at the public records on the county website. Oh my goodness. I'm kind of stuck here. I'm opening myself up to retaliation if I go forward with anything from someone who has charges of aggravated arson and aggravated discharge of a firearm, in addition to a few battery charges. I can't just not do anything though, so any advice would be greatly appreciated. And let's jump straight to that right now, because this is a tough situation, but this is what one commenter said. I'm copying this for every identity theft situation that I see on Reddit, since it seems to happen a lot, where you know who the person is who stole your identity. This is all information you can find in this sub and others. This was actually originally posted on the subreddit r/creditscore. Firstly, call the police. You are the victim of identity theft, plain and simple. It doesn't matter who did it or what your relationship is to them. They broke the law, now they have to face the consequences of their actions. Secondly, freeze your credit. Obviously, you want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Take the proactive route of freezing your credit. Third, monitor and track your credit. You need to be alerted if anyone tries opening a line of credit in your name, and you can actually do that for free. Okay, interesting. 4, warn anyone else who might be a victim. Yeah, sensible. Including family members or anyone else whose social security number might be compromised by that thief. 5, take the police report to the credit bureaus. Give them the report number when you dispute all of the accounts. Most of the time, that will be enough for them to take the accounts off of your credit. It's on the creditors themselves to prove the accounts are legitimately yours, and the bureaus aren't going to get in the middle of it. A police report goes a long way in clearing up your credit. Don't take identity theft lying down, even if it's someone close to you. If you let them get away with it, get ready for 5 to 10 years of bad credit, collection agencies coming after you, lawsuits, and more. For this specific case, you need to go to the police like now. This guy seems like an incredibly violent person. I would get a restraining order as soon as possible. Does he know where you live? I also wouldn't contact your ex at all about anything else. Let it all go through the court system. And the original poster replied to this saying, I plan on calling the police. I was just kind of freaked out about the whole situation. How do I get the police report to the credit companies? Someone else said, file a police report for the fraud. Contact the lenders and provide the police report number and jurisdiction. Let the police and the bank sort it out. Provide all that info to the lawyers that filed the suit and bring it all to court. Do not skip a court date. So, there we go. That is the original post and some great advice down below. I have to agree with OP though. Like, it's one thing being in this situation, knowing this is happening to you and knowing you have to go to the police. But when you're getting physically threatened by someone that you know has gone to jail for physical assault before, That is a lot more scary, to be honest, so I understand the concern. Anyway, let's get into the update. This was posted just a week ago at the time of recording, 1 month after the original. So, I followed the advice in the comments and I went to the police. Quick and painless process. I was in and out in maybe 30 minutes with a report number. I never received another call from my ex or her boyfriend. I gave the report number to the credit card companies and the credit bureaus. I was told I didn't have to do anything else at that point but to show up to the court date for the lawsuit. I learned through a mutual friend today that my ex was arrested this morning. Apparently, the county put out a warrant for her last week, pulled her over on the way to work. It looks like she was charged and released pretty quickly. Also, I learned my ex and the boyfriend who threatened me are no longer together. I don't think I have to worry about him anymore. The court date for the lawsuit is later this month, but everything has already fallen off my report. My score has gone up probably 200 points. I'm still going to the court date just to make sure everything is good, but it's looking like all good news from here on out. Well, that OP is amazing to hear. Somebody said down below, that is awesome news. Your story will also serve as inspiration for others to pursue justice when they've been wronged. And somebody finally offered one more piece of advice. Make sure you put a freeze on your SSN with all 3 credit bureaus if you haven't done so already. Goodness me. I mean, so many things to do in this situation, clearly, and things you're going to have to continue to do, OP, but it's good to hear that, yeah, maybe this story is coming to an end. God, honestly, reading through that story, just the amount of things that the OP has to do here was just genuinely giving me anxiety. If that sort of thing happened to you and you knew it was affecting your life so much, and there were so many different things that you had to do, I mean, even reading through that list of things that you must do immediately from the first commenter on the original post, and then having in the back of your mind the fact that you've got a horrible boyfriend to your ex out there who is extremely physical and has been to prison, who's saying don't do any of it or you're going to be in massive trouble. Yeah, terrible situation to be in. As I said, I'm just very happy that this is getting a lot better for you now, and hopefully you're at the end of this terrible journey. Crazy situation that someone would just do this. I don't know, how long will this person go to prison for? Will they go to prison at all? Obviously they've been released, but I presume there's going to be like a proper court date, and yeah, she is going to be charged, but I don't know. This sort of thing is just crazy. It can ruin lives. We know this, right? Identity theft is not a joke. If you get that reference, respect. Should probably have added Jim on, but if you guys know, you know.
Michael! Oh, that's funny. Michael!
Now, one thing I will say, just to end this, is that I think OP's not going to want to hear this, but I personally would still be a little bit concerned about your ex's boyfriend, or your ex's ex now. Because he just seems like a completely cooked individual. He seems unstable. I don't know. I don't know how you protect yourself from that individual, but I guess just when you're going through this whole process, keep mentioning him to the police, because threatening somebody like he's done with his history, I'm sure is not allowed either. So yeah, just make sure you're covered from that and get all the help you can from the authorities. Good luck, is all I can say. Am I the jerk for flirting with 19-year-old girls and defending myself when being called a predator? Okay, so as I said, this was originally posted in 2019. I'm 31, and I recently ended a long-term relationship. I was broken. I recently went to this cool restaurant/bar downtown with one of my buddies to have a good time. Anyone of any age can come in. While we were there was a girl who was celebrating her 19th birthday. They sang happy birthday and they were allowed an outside cake with 19 on it. The birthday girl was pretty, so I wanted to go and chat her up. Her friends were super cute too. My buddy told me to leave them alone and that they looked like babies. He didn't want to go over at first, but since the breakup, every other woman but my ex has been invisible, so he went to wingman me. We walked over and wished her a happy birthday. I thought things were going well and the women were laughing. Then, all of a sudden, one of the girls snaps at me to, quote, "Take a frickin' hint, R. Kelly." I was taken aback and just said, "Excuse me?" She said to read the room and that they were uncomfortable. Another asked us to go away. I was gonna go, but I was really bothered by the R. Kelly comment. I said it's effed up to call me a predator when we're all adults here. My buddy wanted to leave, but I stood my ground. The birthday woman said that it didn't matter. It's weird for someone my age to hit on them, especially when they make it obvious that they're uncomfortable. Then made another R. Kelly comment by asking if she looked like AITA to me, which upset me again.
I apologized for making them uncomfortable, but that didn't give them the right to call me a predator. One of the women said it was a personal problem. I said that adults are allowed to hit on adults. It's not a crime. One woman just asked why I was still standing there and yelled at me to go away. I was annoyed, and when I left, their entire table was singing Remix to Ignition and laughing their butts off. I was furious and humiliated. When we sat back down, I was seething. My buddy said that it was my fault for not seeing the signs that they were uncomfortable. To him, it was obvious, so he wanted to go. He called me delusional. I pointed out that they were laughing, and he said it was just uncomfortable laughter. I told him that I had every right to be mad about being called a predator when they were all 18 to 19. It's a horrible accusation to make. My ex was 6 years older than me. He said that they weren't calling me a predator, just weird for going for teens. He said it was wrong of them to sing after me, and that was bullying, but I should have left long before that. I felt like he should have stuck up for me. So, was I wrong for sticking up for myself, or for hitting on them in the first place? I was respectful and not creepy at all as well. Okay, let's get straight into some comments here. I think you guys can probably guess what I'm gonna say, but let's just jump into the comments. Somebody said, yes, you are the jerk for being creepy, not taking a hint, and arguing about it to women who have just asked you to leave. You're upset about being called a predator, but you don't seem to care that your inappropriate behavior made a group of women in public feel uncomfortable. Somebody replied to that. Typical nice guy, I suppose. Somebody else replied, the table singing Remix to Ignition was also hilarious in how badly it annoyed the original poster here. I completely agree. Somebody else said, he's actually an extra jerk for standing his ground when they asked him to leave. What did he think would happen? They'd admire his persistence and realize they were wrong all along and he was actually a nice guy who they should all sleep with? Somebody replied to this saying, or they'd all look sheepish and he could leave like a boss, having owned all these female doggy women. Somebody else said, then the entire restaurant would clap. And then somebody else added, and all the women would throw their knickers at the clear alpha male. I think this comment sums it up. You are the jerk. The fact that both the girls and your friend easily recognized that it was creepy to hit on her should tell you that it wasn't okay. You're 31, hitting on a 19-year-old, and you can't actually confirm how old the other girls were. Probably around 17, 18, and 19. That is very creepy, and you made them uncomfortable and then didn't take a hint, then got mad when they had to be mean to you for you to go away, and you still didn't go away. This is predatory behavior, and I'm not really sure what you thought was going to happen. Okay, so there we go. That is the original post. Now we are going to get into the follow-up post from one of the girls, which is an absolute privilege to have, to be honest. I'm delighted that we have this follow-up to give more context and more detail. But what I will say is this. After like the first line or the third line, you are automatically the jerk. If you're 30 years old, 19 is too young. It's as simple as that. I'm 26. For me, 19 is like it's not even a question. It's so young. A 19-year-old girl is like a child in comparison to me. They're not attractive because they're 19. It's just too young. It's too much of an age gap. I'm sorry, it just is. I wouldn't even consider it for even a split second. I mean, to be honest, the lowest age I'd probably go at 26 would maybe be 23 at a push. Probably 24. Just being honest. 19, as you can tell, is miles off it. I mean, my sister's 23, 4 years younger than my sister. Not at this age. 30 to 19 is a ridiculous age gap. You were 11 when they weren't born. Like, you were in secondary school in the UK. Absolutely not. But anyway, the more stuff we read there, the more of a jerk you got, obviously. I mean, standing your ground when girls in public are asking you to move on. You just are a jerk. Sorry, it doesn't even matter what you're doing, just leave them alone. Anyway, let's then get in to the follow-up post. Okay, here we go then. One day after the 30-year-old's post, we got this. I have never had a Reddit account before, but my journalism TA showed us it, and sometimes I'll just check the front page for news. Earlier, I saw a post up there that basically described my birthday dinner like 3 weeks ago. At first, I didn't really care, but now I just feel the need to clarify a few things. Even though I know most people called that guy a jerk. Some people got aggy about the R. Kelly comment and singing Ignition. Was it mean? Yes. But I'm done being nice to creeps. For what it's worth, by the way, I completely agree with one of the comments. That's really funny. And you are allowed to make dark jokes like that. I mean, the world's gone mad if we're not allowed to make jokes about stuff like that. I'm sorry. That's the exact sort of thing I do. Very funny stuff. No, it's got nothing to do with the fact that he actually did horrible things. It's just a joke. All right. And if you don't understand that, then you're a loser. Now, the girl continues. This was not a bar. It was actually a bar and grill, but it was mainly a restaurant that just happened to serve drinks. We were sitting near a family, so we weren't in a setting where people go to get hit on. We were minding our own business and we were just having fun in the corner. He came and wished me a happy birthday. I said thanks, and we all went back to our conversation. I did appreciate being told happy birthday, but he stuck around. We laughed uncomfortably and went back to our conversation. He stuck around and kept interrupting us. Each time he said something, we nodded and then turned our backs to him. We actually said, thank you, bye, a few times, but he was still standing there talking to us. His friend kept finding excuses to leave. I was annoyed, uncomfortable, and disgusted, but I gave him a respectful, okay, have a good night, here's some cake for home, bye. But he grabbed the cake and sat down in our booth. He said, the night's not over yet. Well, if that's not the definition of creepy, I don't know what is. Then my friend just snapped, and if she didn't, I was going to. When she called him R. Kelly, she wasn't accusing him of being a pedo, but a creep. 30-year-old guys who hit on us are creepy and disgust us, point blank period. We were nice the entire time, and I even gave him a million hints and cake for the road. His friend was even finding reasons for them to leave. Then he had the audacity to stand there and fight us on it. I told him that he was way too old for us, and it was creepy from the start. When he left, we started singing Ignition amongst ourselves, not singing it after him. It's a throwback that our parents put us on. Instead of crying over our night being ruined by a creep, we turned it into a fun moment with karaoke. P.S. When he asked us our age and gave us his, we became a million times more uncomfortable. The guy was 30, trying to get with 18-year-olds at a birthday dinner. We're used to old men bothering us, and it's always gross. To the if he wasn't ugly crowd, he was decent looking, he was a fit guy. If I'd never met him, I'd set him up with my aunt. But he was in his 30s, and that's way too old. This isn't prawn, and I haven't met a single girl desperate for a 30-year-old divorced D. Being called legal is demeaning. Everything about it was sickening. When he came over, announced his age, then asked us ours, I almost yacked. It was like he was IDing us at a family restaurant. Get the F out of here. I'm tired of having to be polite to guys who are creepy and disrespectful. You know what? Mad respect. And once again, I cannot quite believe that somebody that is 30 would go after girls that are 18 or 19. What are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? Like, it's not even... I don't get it. It's not... Where's the attraction there to go after like someone that is, in effect, a child? It's just insane. Someone that's 12 or 11 years younger than you at that age. It's mad. And also, the crazy thing is, he said it was at a bar, not at a restaurant, like a bar and grill, a family restaurant. Just insane. And that is why I'm so happy that this girl has given a follow-up to give us as much context as we could possibly long for and to show us what was really going on that day. Just phenomenal scenes and yeah, a wonderful, wonderful story. Wow, this guy is the definition of a creep. Am I the jerk for leaving a drunk girl alone at a bar? This involves me, a 32-year-old man, Matt, who is 30, Matt's girlfriend, Lisa, who is 28, and her friend, Jane, who's in her 20s. 2 days back, it was Matt's birthday. He invited me and a few of our friends to a small birthday dinner at this restaurant, which is also kind of a bar. The plan was to eat, drink, and chill. Matt's girlfriend, Lisa, also invited a few of her own friends. It was a group of around 15 people. I mostly hung out with my own friends and Matt's and Lisa's friends with her. One of Lisa's friends, Jane, kept trying to talk to me throughout the evening. It was kind of awkward for me as I'm an introvert and the conversations with her felt like they were going nowhere. At around 12, I decided to head back home. Jane came up to me and told me that even she wanted to go back home. I was like, okay, cool. Then she asked me if I could drop her off at her house. I asked her where she lived, and she told me some address that wasn't even on my way, so I told her to ask someone else to drop her off. She asked me if I was sure I couldn't, and I was like, yep, absolutely. Jane was visibly drunk, but I figured she had like a group of friends, so somebody would give her a ride. Also, I was tired as frick, and I just wanted to go back and sleep. The next morning, I woke up to some very angry messages from Lisa. She was furious at me for leaving Jane alone at the party. Apparently, they all assumed since I was hanging out with Jane, I would have the decency to drop her back home. I told her that I talked to Jane for a total of like 15 minutes in the entire 3 to 4 hours, and I don't understand why everyone wanted me to be her personal chauffeur. All of her friends obviously think I'm a huge jerk. Matt has decided to stay neutral on this. Okay, let's jump into the comments before we get to the update on this one. Somebody asked OP, what does Jane think about this? Apparently, says OP, even Jane thinks I'm a jerk for not dropping her home. I'm actually kind of stumped at her behaviour, to be honest. Somebody else asked about OP's feelings or lack thereof for Jane. I'm pretty sure Jane is in her early 20s. Part of the reason the conversations were awkward with her was because she sounded like a kid to me. I felt there was a generational gap. Hooking up was out of the question. Then OP said to another commenter, it felt like a generation gap to me. I'm about to be 33 and I'm guessing Jane is younger than 25. And then finally, somebody said, Matt doesn't seem like much of a friend, bud. But OP said, I feel Matt is just trying to not annoy his girlfriend. I don't blame him, honestly. Yeah, that is exactly the impression I got when OP said that Matt has decided to stay neutral on this. Probably pretty sensible from Matt, although yeah, maybe not the best for OP. Alright, let's get into the update for this one. This was posted 2 months later. Lisa entirely stopped talking to me after the incident. Not that we were close before, but she would sometimes forward reels, etc. on Instagram. Matt was also being distant, but whatever, I got busy with work and I forgot about it. A week after the said incident, Matt texted me saying he needed a favour. He said he wanted me to apologise to Jane. I was like, heck no, I'm not apologising to her. Matt said that he knows that it's not my fault at all and he's tried explaining this to Lisa, but she's adamant that I was a jerk to Jane and made Lisa look bad in front of her. Apparently, Lisa gave Matt an ultimatum, saying that if I don't apologise to her and Jane, Matt needs to cut me off. This honestly was some high school BS that Lisa was partaking in, and it was very toxic. And I told Matt the same thing, but he was really desperate and pathetically sad, so I agreed to text Jane an apology. But this apparently made Jane think that I'm interested in her or something, and I felt like an absolute idiot for agreeing to apologise. She started texting me a lot. In the beginning, I gave monosyllabic replies, but then her texting increased a lot, and I straight up hit her with, please stop texting me, I'm not interested. This hurt her, and she snitched about this to Lisa. Again, high school BS. And Lisa started threatening Matt to go no contact with me. They fought about this non-issue for like a week, and this made Matt realise that Lisa is actually really toxic, and they broke up. Jane hasn't tried contacting me either. Life is peaceful for the time being. The end. And somebody has commented on this. It sounds like Jane wasn't the only one causing drama and being toxic. I'm glad you were able to cut out the negativity in your life. And OP replied, I'm glad Matt got back to his senses, to be honest. Okay, so there we go. A lot to unpack there, but I'm pretty sure I know what's going on. And the first thing that's obvious to say is that OP did absolutely nothing wrong here. Just because you chatted to someone for a few minutes at a party and they asked to go home with you or, you know, at least have a lift back to their house with you, it doesn't mean that you have to do it at all, especially given the fact that it's not on your way home either. Yeah, there's no reason at all for you to give someone a lift if you don't want to. Like, it would have been a nice thing to do, sure, but you didn't want to, that's completely fine. But yes, I'm pretty confident that what's going on here is that Jane is just into you, my friend. Simple as that. She just fancies you. And that is why she chatted to you loads. That is why she wanted to have a lift back with you. That is why she's probably pretty devastated as well when you said no, and was also messaging you loads when you then apologized to her. It's pretty obvious to me that she just fancies you. Simple as that. But moving on from that, how toxic is she and Lisa? It's crazy. Like, demanding an apology from you for something that you should never have to apologize for is mental. The title of this one, Am I the Jerk for Leaving a Drunk Girl Alone at a Bar, is a little bit misleading, let's be honest, because it's not really what happened. I mean, technically yes, but you did leave her with all her friends, and I don't know, like, she wouldn't have showed up that day expecting to get a lift back from you. She would have had plans, right, to go back by herself or with her friends later on that night. So yeah, it's clear she's just very into you, and I agree with you. It's good that Matt got back to his senses, and maybe this event showed him that Lisa is very toxic and her friends are too. And clearly he doesn't want to be around that sort of person for the long term. Respect. Now moving on to our next post. Am I the jerk for telling my sister's boyfriend to get out after he refused to eat the meal I cooked? So here is what happened. I am a 28-year-old woman, and I invited my sister, who is 25, and her boyfriend, who is 26, over for dinner. I love cooking, and I'd spent hours preparing this fancy meal. Homemade pasta, a slow-cooked ragu, a salad, and a tiramisu for dessert. I was really proud of it and excited to have them over. Can I just say at this point, if you are hosting another dinner party in future, can I be invited? That sounds divine. When they arrived, everything was fine at first. We sat down and I started serving the food. Her boyfriend, let's call him Steve, stared at the pasta for a moment, then looked at me and said, "I don't eat carbs." At first, I thought he was joking, but nope, he was dead serious. He goes on about how he's super into keto and carbs are the enemy. Okay, fine, that's his choice. But when I offered to make him a salad or something else on the spot, he refused and said that I should have known about his diet beforehand. This is where it gets weird. He then pulls out a small Tupperware container from his bag filled with what looked like boiled chicken and broccoli and starts to eat it at my dinner table while the rest of us are trying to enjoy the meal I spent hours making. I was stunned and honestly kind of insulted. I told him it was rude to bring his own food without mentioning it to me beforehand, and he should have at least given me a heads up. He then goes off about how people need to respect his dietary choices and that I was being controlling by not accommodating his needs. At this point, I'd had enough. I told him, if you can't eat what's served and won't even let me make something else, then maybe you should just get out. He stood up, says something like, "I'm just trying to be healthy," grabbed his Tupperware and walked out. My sister stayed for a bit, but eventually left too, saying I overreacted. Now my sister's mad at me, saying I embarrassed her boyfriend and made them both feel unwelcome. My mum thinks I should apologise, but my friends are on my side, saying Steve was being incredibly rude. Am I the jerk for telling him to get out? This, honestly, before we even get into any comments here, is one of the most cut and dry Am I the Jerk posts of all time. Obviously you're not OP. Now somebody in the comments down below has said your sister didn't give you a heads up about his diet, and I agree, it's very, very odd that neither your sister or her boyfriend told you beforehand and just expected you to either know or for you to just not produce food with any carbs in it. I mean, carbs are a staple of most diets. It's very weird. OP says, honestly, no, she didn't. I'm not sure if she even knew how serious he was about the whole keto thing because she never mentioned it. She eats pretty much anything, so I assumed he was the same. But even if she had, I feel like it still would have been polite for him to at least say something beforehand instead of just showing up with his own meal. I would have happily made something keto friendly if I had known. And that right there is the entire point. There's nothing wrong with being on any sort of diet, to be fair. If you want to do it, go for it. Keto is very popular these days, for good reason, I suppose. It works for some people. But the problem is, if you just rock up to someone's gaff for dinner and you don't tell them that you can't eat carbs, then obviously that's extremely rude. How on earth are they supposed to know that? And yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a carb-free meal, and I'm sure, as OP has said, they would have happily made it for their sister's boyfriend if he had told her beforehand. But just rocking up without saying that, and then just producing your own Tupperware so you knew you were going to do that anyway, is crazy rude. Anyway, let's get into the update. This came 6 days later. Well, buckle up, because things have escalated in a way I never expected. After my initial post, I figured things would calm down once my sister had time to cool off. But spoiler alert, they did not. So, the day after I told Steve to leave, my sister texted me saying they want to talk things through at a family dinner. Maybe at a neutral restaurant where we could hash it out like adults. Nope. Instead, my sister invites my parents, my brother, and Steve's parents to this dinner at my parents' house, turning it into some kind of weird intervention. I show up thinking it will just be a casual conversation, but the moment I walk in, Steve's mum, let's call her Carol, is already going off about how Steve has always had special dietary needs and how people who care about him should respect his boundaries. The woman acts like the guy has a life-threatening allergy, not a trendy diet. My mum is sitting there looking super uncomfortable, while my dad is just quietly sipping his beer, clearly wishing he were anywhere else. So, Carol starts listing off Steve's dietary restrictions, and she's acting like I personally offended the whole keto community by serving pasta. Then, brace yourselves, Carol pulls out a folder. Yes, a literal folder with printouts. She hands one to me, one to my mum, and one to my dad. I'm flipping through this thing, and it's full of Steve's dietary guidelines, suggested meal plans, and even a list of keto-friendly restaurants we could go to in the future. What is going on here? At this point, I'm doing everything I can not to laugh, but it gets worse. Steve pipes up and says he's willing to forgive me for, quote, disrespecting his lifestyle if I agree to host a redo dinner where I follow his dietary restrictions to the letter. He says this will prove that I'm serious about making amends and respecting his needs going forward. I thought he was joking, but no, he was dead serious. He even pulled out his phone to show me some keto recipe apps that I, quote, might find helpful. I was in total shock. My sister, by the way, said absolutely nothing during all of this, just staring at her plate like she wanted to disappear. My mum, bless her, tries to smooth things over by suggesting we all just eat whatever we want when we're together, but Carol snaps. It's not that simple. She says that in their family, they all follow keto together, and that is why Steve is so passionate about it. Imagine being passionate about a diet, by the way. What? At this point, I've had enough. I stood up and said, look, I'm not redoing the dinner. I'm not making anyone a special keto feast. If Steve can't eat what I cook, that's fine, but bringing his own meal to my dinner without even telling me was disrespectful, and I'm not apologizing for feeling that way. And then, this is where it gets absolutely bonkers. Steve's dad stands up, points at me, and says, this is exactly why Steve doesn't trust women to understand him. They always make it about themselves. The whole room went silent. My dad finally spoke up, saying, I think it's time for you all to leave, and started walking towards the door, basically escorting Steve's parents out. Steve and my sister stayed behind, but Steve was furious. He started yelling about how families should support each other, and then accused me of trying to sabotage their relationship because I'm jealous of what they have. At that point, I just walked out and left the whole mess behind. Here's the kicker though. A couple of days later, my sister called me and told me that she and Steve were taking a break because she needed time to think. Apparently, this whole keto fiasco was the last straw in a long list of controlling behavior from Steve. She didn't realize just how bad it was until the whole family saw it play out at dinner. She even told me that Steve had been trying to get her to follow his diet for months, but she was hiding snacks in her car just to get a break from all the keto madness. Oh my goodness, that really is controlling. So now Steve's gone full radio silent. My sister is staying with me for the time being, and I'm still getting passive-aggressive texts from Carol about how hurt Steve is and how he's just misunderstood. Honestly, I'm just glad my sister is finally seeing how controlling this guy was. Wow, that is really insane and bordering on abusive, to be honest. Forcing your partner to follow the same diet as you is ridiculous, especially when it's a keto diet, which is a diet that has a lot of, in my opinion, pretty negative side effects. I'm not sure I'd necessarily recommend keto to people. I've done quite a lot of research on keto, to be fair. It's something that I thought about doing like a while ago, just trying it out. But I'm just not sure that I would recommend it, knowing what I know now. I just do think that carbs are a very, very important part of a diet. I know once you go into ketosis and you're getting energy from different sources, it's meant to be sort of similar. I'm not sure about that. I just do think that carbs are very, very important for giving you energy. And apparently when you start going into ketosis, or before you go into ketosis, you just feel completely awful for a good few days, like just rough, no energy, headaches, etc. I don't know if that's the most healthy thing to go through for your body, but maybe that's because I do a lot of exercise and I know that I do need carbs to fuel myself. I don't know about that. But yeah, let me know down below if you've ever done keto. I know it works for some people. I'm just not sure it's the best sustainable long-term diet. And that is completely unrelated to what I've seen here. As in, that has no relevance, or the fact that Steve is such a madman and Carol is so crazy. There's no bearing on my thoughts on ketosis. But let's move on to them now. Goodness me. Once again, like the previous story, the fact that it's taken something like this to show your sister how crazy her partner is probably a bit weird. There were clear red flags before this, but again, like the first story, it's a good thing that they're broken up now, because Steve is just insane. To be honest, like thinking about this now, I kind of think that your sister OP didn't tell you beforehand because she probably was just like desperate for a keto-free meal for once, or a non-keto meal. Like the thought of pasta or something just with carbs was so tempting to her that she didn't want to risk that in any sort of way by informing you. So she was just like, oh no, really? Oh, I should have told you, man. And she's just scranning her pasta, like delighted in the corner. But yeah, I feel really bad for her. But as I said, it's a good thing that she is done with Steve. Now, But there we go. That's going to do it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Couple of differing stories, but with similar outcomes. Good outcomes, I think you'd agree. So this was posted on February the 15th, 2022 on r/AmITheJerk. Would I be the jerk if I forced my mum to kick my brother out? I am a 29-year-old woman, and my brother, who is 23, lives in the same house as my mother and I. My mum and I bought this house a few years ago, and he's been living here for most of that time. He goes on and on about how much he just hates it here and can't wait to get his own place, yet seems to have zero initiative to actually do that. On top of this, he's a raging jerk to me and my mother. My mum is disabled, so she can't work, so I pay for 75% of all expenses, including all of our property taxes and house insurance. My brother has no education and he works part-time at a local store, contributing only to his portion of the auto insurance and the electricity bill. He goes out of his way to pick fights with my mum and, now that I have recently moved back home, with me. I had lived with my boyfriend all of 2021, but he recently broke up with me and I moved back home. I'm obviously still hurting since the breakup is fresh and I just want to live in a house that doesn't feel like a war zone. Whenever my mum and I see my brother walking up the pathway, we both retreat into our rooms because we just can't deal with him and his moods. Tonight he decided he didn't want some of my items crowding his door and was having a meltdown because a few of my items that I moved back from my ex's house were in his way. I had to get up out of bed and I asked exactly what he wanted moved so I could get them out of the way and get back to sleep. He started to berate me, saying stuff like, "Shut the F up, go cry on your pillow, you're pathetic, you're just upset because your boyfriend is cheating on you in your old house." Which makes me laugh because when he went through his breakup, I kindly listened and gave him plenty of advice when he asked for it. I've asked my mum many times if we can please kick him out because he owns no part of this house and he is the worst part of our daily lives. My mum acknowledges that he is the worst, but she doesn't want to kick him out because he's her son. She says I should just ignore him and stop bickering with him, but I feel like ignoring him is enabling him. I want him gone. Look, I love him because he's my brother, but the kid is seriously the worst human being I know, and neither my mum nor I need that energy in our house. I'm not sure what I can do to convince my mum to kick him out, but I'm getting to the point where I may have to live on my own. This is putting me in a horrible position because if I leave, I'll have to stop helping my mum financially, which she says she would understand. But if I stay, I'll have to deal with my nightmare of a brother. So, would I be the jerk if I forced my mum to kick him out? Okay, so there we go. That is where this story all began. And yeah, knowing now what I know and what we're going to come to very soon in the rest of this episode, and of course, the two stories that I read previously, yeah, obviously you wouldn't be the jerk here. But I'm just going to try and give some comments just purely based on what I've just read there. And yeah, still you wouldn't be the jerk. This guy just sounds terrible. He is also 23. It's not as if he's 16 and would have nowhere else to go. I mean, he wouldn't have anywhere else to go, which is tough, but you are 23. You can't expect to live in someone else's house at 23. Look, it's lovely that he is able to do that. And I mean, I was going to say that surely deep down he is grateful, but actually he's probably not. Maybe to wake him up and to you know, give him some sort of like jump start or like kick in the head to actually get going in life, he needs to be sent out of the house. I'm just not even sure how you'd even begin to do that. Like, it's quite hard to force your own brother out of your house, but yeah, you're definitely not the jerk for wanting him gone. Okay, now moving on to this user's second post. Brother emotionally scarred because I changed my name. This was posted 2 years ago on February the 19th, 2023. So that's almost an entire year after the original post on r/AmITheJerk. In fact, it is over a year after that post. So now OP is 30 and her brother is 24. She says, "We have never gotten along, mostly because he's entitled and thinks the world revolves around him. My parents have never gotten along either, which contributed greatly to why I grew up fairly down to earth, and my brother is a self-centered man-child. Recently, I changed my last name to my mother's maiden name. I had my dad's last name before, because I've never liked the last name I was given, and I've always wanted my name to reflect the family that raised me. My brother recently found out that I did this, and said, 'Oh, so you don't want to be my sister anymore? That's my last name. You don't want to be associated with me? Wow. I guess we know what side you're choosing. I can't believe you do this to me. So you're telling me that I'm supposed to be ashamed of my name then? Is that it? Did you even once stop to think how this was going to affect me?' Funnily enough, I answered, I didn't think of you at all. Yikes. Okay, so there we go. That is the second post. Now, I would like to move on to the third one, but unfortunately it's actually been deleted from r/AmIThejerk. It's been removed by the moderators there, probably because it has some sort of rules against guns. Actually, I'm not sure. It says here that the post violates Rule 12, that posts should focus strictly on actions in an interpersonal conflict and not an individual's position on a broad social issue. Anyway, look, the title's on screen right now. Would I be the jerk if I asked my brother to keep his guns in his room? So, you know, the reason this was probably deleted was because of, I guess, it got to a debate about gun control and gun laws in America, etc., which isn't allowed on here for whatever reason. But, yeah, I think we can glean enough from the title of this one, and it helps us to sort of understand, again, a little bit more about who OP's brother is. I think keeping guns is one thing. Keeping them across the house, or maybe even asking his sister to keep them in her room as well, is crazy. Look, I know that a lot of you guys probably have different sort of views to me on gun control. I'm in the UK. I'm happy about that, is all I'll say. But yeah, this was the third post from OP, and it's been deleted. And sadly, Wayback Machine, if you know what that is down at the time of recording, so I can't get it. And I don't even think it would be on there anyway, because it was deleted pretty quickly. But there we go. Let's move on to the fourth post. Okay, so this one was posted on r/entitledpeople on August the 8th, 2023. Entitled brother demands I thank him for cleaning my mess. So OP is now 31 and her brother is 25. She says, my brother has always been an entitled brat. He's lived in my house. My mum and I bought and renovated it for 5 years now. So, I mean, let's just go back to the would I be the jerk question that was 2 years before this one, where OP's brother was 23. Clearly, they didn't get him to move out, and it's been 2 years since that moment. Anyway, OP says, he didn't start contributing to the household bills until about 2 years ago, and he makes sure to throw that in mine and my mum's faces every month as if it's some big favour. He's always complained about living here and how miserable he is because he's treated so poorly. He's treated like a prince by my mum. And the house is such a mess, that's his quote. His room used to be our studio space, where my mum and I kept our workspaces and supplies. I'm a designer and my mum is an artist. When he moved in, we turned our living room into a makeshift office for ourselves, so our supplies are kept on various shelving units in our living space. My brother has always complained about how cluttered and dirty the house is, and how he hates living here, blah blah. I've told him repeatedly that if he doesn't like it, he doesn't have to live here. He said I should accommodate him instead because he's family and family should respect each other. It's a small house and we were doing our best with what little space we have, but he says it's embarrassing that we don't have a space for a couch and TV. We actually used to until he moved in. 2 months ago, he announced that he is being forced to move in with his girlfriend because he can't live like this anymore. Because my mother and I are just so awful for asking him to help with the bills, and we have the audacity to have our workspaces in the living room. Since he informed us of this, he hasn't packed a single box, and he refuses to give me any kind of time frame. But I overheard him telling his dad he expects to move out in September. Today I came home to a bunch of stuff, including kitchen items like sodas and snacks, stacked in my room and on my work desk, which had my laptop and my design drawings on the tabletop. I was confused and annoyed because I was afraid they'd been crushed. I asked my mum if she did that. She told me it was my brother. I went to him to ask why the heck he did that and that I didn't appreciate him moving my stuff and potentially ruining my work. He went off on me, saying he made an executive decision to finally clean up. I laughed because he has his own bathroom and the largest bedroom, and they're both filthy. He decided my mum's and my things needed to be allocated to our spaces and kept out of the communal spaces, the kitchen and dining area. His logic was since I'm the only one who consumes certain sodas and snacks that they need to be kept in my room. None of his foods or drinks were taken out of the kitchen, by the way. Anything that he didn't deem worthy of being in the communal spaces, he just tossed into a pile on mine and my mother's desks and in our rooms. Mind you, his shoes, moving boxes and bags are all over the hallway. My mum and I always have to step over his trash when we walk by his room, and we don't move anything. I told him he needs to respect our things and our space, but he said it's not for me to dictate. I said, yes it is, it's my house, but he wouldn't hear it. He screamed at me, saying I had to thank him for cleaning my mess and that I better apologise for being so ungrateful. I reminded him he's moving out, so why would he be bothered about how my house looks? I told him I can't organize anything until he moves out, and he lost his mind, saying, "How freaking dare you? I guess you can't wait for me to leave." I rolled my eyes and told him that not everything I say and do is a personal attack on him. He was screaming at me, saying that my power trip is my way of abusing him. I got fed up by that point and walked away to avoid losing my cool. It takes a very deluded person to make demands and set rules that never seem to apply to him in someone else's home. The entitlement. Okay, so there we go. A little insight there into the living situation between OP, her brother, and her mum before the content from yesterday's episode, the latest 2 stories in this saga. Yeah, it seems to me, and this was probably quite obvious from yesterday's episode, that this has just been a continuing thing for a number of years. And it sort of adds to the point that I was trying to make at the end of today's episode, that you don't just suddenly change your whole opinion after 8 years of being as entitled as your brother clearly is, OP. Like, he has been a terrible person, a terrible housemate, a terrible brother, seemingly, for a very, very long time. And we're not even at the end yet. So we're now, what, 4, technically really 3 posts into this. There are 2 more to go in this episode, and then the 2 from yesterday's episode, until we have the sort of the finished story, I guess, up to now. So let's jump into the next one. Am I the jerk for asking how my boyfriend's convo with my mum about us getting married went? This was posted on February the 22nd, 2024. So just 8 months ago now at the time of recording. I'm in a wonderful relationship, but have a very tumultuous home life. My brother and I do not get along because he is insanely toxic, but he lives with my mother and I. We co-own the house because she can't find it in her heart to kick him out, and I get no say in the matter. It's been 6 years and he's finally taking steps to move out, supposedly leaving in May. The trouble started when my boyfriend took my mother out to tell her he was going to ask me to marry him. As they chatted, my mother devoted about 20% of the conversation to talk about my brother. Now, the first portion was understandable. She wanted to inform him of the family dynamic he would be marrying into. I have a very strained relationship with my father and my brother because they're both narcissistic jerks. She wanted to make sure he knew what he was getting himself into. But then she said she wanted my boyfriend's help to get me to be the bigger person and mend my relationship with my brother. And she said she'd like his help to get through to my brother, such as asking my boyfriend to talk to my brother on her behalf. When my boyfriend told me this, I felt gutted. Putting all of that responsibility on his shoulders and focusing on my toxic brother was so hurtful. And what made it worse was she kept saying, "I know he's a jerk, but..." Now, despite how angry I was, I decided not to talk to her about it. I decided that whatever her motives were, I wouldn't let it put a damper on our moment. However, my mum came up to me yesterday and asked if I knew about the lunch she and my boyfriend had. I told her yeah. She asked if I was mad at her, and I was honest. I said I had been because of her devoting so much of the conversation to my brother. She exploded at me. She said I had no right to ask about her convo with my boyfriend because it was private and she didn't know she was getting graded for what she said. I told her I reacted the way I did because 1, it was meant to be about me and my boyfriend, and 2, my brother is not his responsibility. She said, "Your brother is going to be his brother now." She acted as if their convo was supposed to be a secret. She was seething because I had the audacity to ask my boyfriend how it went. Why wouldn't I want to know that? And unless she and my boyfriend agreed it was an only between them conversation, I don't see why she could be so angry at my boyfriend for telling me. I don't know. Am I being self-centered here? Am I the jerk for asking my boyfriend how their convo went in the first place? Or am I the jerk for being honest instead of lying to keep the peace? Okay, interesting post here. And actually, this is the first insight I think we've had in every post that I've read from this user into her mum, I would say. Now, you can probably argue that I've been potentially a little bit naive in not focusing on the mother at all until this point and her enabling behavior. But to be fair, like the bad guy in all of this really has been the entitled brother. But this is the first insight into sort of explaining and yeah, us understanding how your brother has been allowed to be so entitled for his entire life, and shows us why he is as entitled as he is. Clearly, yeah, I mean, if we didn't know already, his mum has been enabling him his entire life, which is just pretty sad to see, to be honest. But yeah, just actually answering the questions that OP's asked at the end. First of all, are you being self-centered? Absolutely not. I mean, that's obvious. then are you the jerk for asking your boyfriend how the conversation went in the first place? No, of course not. I mean, like, if my like girlfriend or my fiance or, you know, whatever, the person that I'm going to marry at some point, obviously, was having a conversation with my parents about what that was going to look like, I'd obviously be like, oh yeah, how'd it go? Like, obviously. And I'd find it very weird if she then came back to me and said, yeah, it was all right, but I'm actually not allowed to tell you because your mum and dad don't want me to say. I'd be like, okay, that's extremely weird behavior from them. But then the final question, am I the jerk for being honest instead of lying to keep the peace? No, because what does lying to keep the peace actually achieve in the long term? Nothing, in my opinion. I think, yeah, the more and more we hear from OP about her family, the more and more we realise that maybe, despite the fact that her mum probably is quite nice in general, maybe she's the only one that actually has some sort of common sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far. Maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on her mum, but I don't know. People who are entitled are often only entitled, or at least are entitled mainly because of other people enabling their behaviour. Like, it's very rare that you just see a random entitled person and they'll just be entitled for the sake of it. No, I don't think anyone is genuinely born entitled. Normally, it's other people in their life that have made them like that, or things that have happened to them at the very least. But yeah, there we go. Now let's move on to the final post of this episode. What should we even call this? Like, it's sort of like the prequel to yesterday's episode, I suppose. This one was posted just 7 months ago. Entitled brother finally got what he deserved. I am a 31-year-old woman, and I'm in shock over the throwdown that I witnessed between my mum, who was in her 60s, and my entitled brother. Ooh, this is interesting. Maybe the mum does have a backbone after all. Let's see what happens. My brother has been mooching off of my mum and she and I co-own our house, since 2017. He lived rent-free for 4 years. Finally, my mum managed to force him to pay his form of rent by paying some utility bills, a total of about $450 a month, since 2021. He's never paid his bills willingly. Every month he demands to know why he has to pay the amount and demands proof of the cost, as if my mum was trying to swindle him for some reason. And every time he's finally given us the money for the bills, he's told us he was bailing us out since we must be broke. Why else would we be making him pay for us? Now, recently he's been going off about how he can't wait to leave the house and he wants to save his money to move out, but he simply can't with the cost of all these bills weighing him down. My mother told him, since he's so serious about moving out, she will gladly pay for his portion of the bills. She works seasonally, and all he'd need to pay was his car insurance. She said she would give him until May 31st to save up as much as he could. He'd then need to move out. Since that agreement was made, my entitled bro has gone on 2 trips out of state. One was a 4-day bachelor party in New Orleans. He's gone to poker nights with his friends multiple times, refuses to so much as wash a dish, and leaves a greasy mess wherever he goes in the house. Meanwhile, my mum has worked 6 days a week to make enough money to cover his expenses, and yet he hasn't thanked her once. Every time she asks him to do the simplest task, he ignores her or claims he forgot, despite how often she reminds him. Today, she finally snapped. His one bill that he's responsible for was due 4 days ago and he never paid her. She texted him and reminded him verbally many times. She asked via text one last time today, and he finally responded by asking her to give him a receipt so she can prove his insurance cost what she claimed it cost. And he never sent the money. She lost it and said she's sick of catering to him without so much as a thank you. She said she wants peace and he is no longer worth the trouble she goes through. She said she is removing him from the car insurance tomorrow and that he no longer has until the end of May to move out. He actually has 3 weeks. That's it. And remember guys, this was posted on March the 21st, 2024. So instead of the end of May, we're looking at halfway through April. Half the time. Actually, no, way less than half the time. 3 weeks rather than what? 9 weeks or so. She's threatened to kick him out before and hasn't gone through with it yet. But this time felt different because I've never seen her go nuclear like that before. And my entitled bro must have felt that same way because he went through the 5 stages of grief about 100 times during that fight. He screamed, cried, accused, name-called, tried to pull me in to defend him, tried to pull in his dad, who lives 2 hours away, to defend him, tried to call my mum's sisters to defend him. claimed getting his own insurance was an emotional burden, claimed she needs professional help because she is obviously out of her mind, said that she obviously doesn't care about him, otherwise why would she so cruelly deprive him of such valuable resources. He went on and on for 3 hours and she didn't budge. I don't want to get my hopes up that she'll stick to that 3-week deadline, but this is the closest she's come to evicting him. I hope this will scare him into leaving before she has to. Entitled brother informed me that he would be taking my dog for 3 days without my permission. For those of you who aren't familiar with my stories, I am a 31-year-old woman, and I have a man-child entitled brother who is 26 who lives in the house I co-own with my mum. My mum has told him he has until May 31st to move out. This was originally posted 6 months ago in April of this year. I've been anxiously waiting for him to leave, doing my best to bide my time, but I finally reached the end of my rope, and for something that I'm not sure is the straw or the log that broke the camel's back. Last night, while I was in bed, my entitled bro informed me that he would be taking my dog, Spot, for 3 days on some fishing trip. I told him there's no way he could do that, but he said he wasn't asking, he was telling me. He said, "He's my dog too," and that he's entitled to take him whenever he pleases. But here's the thing. 9 years ago, my entitled brother demanded a dog. I begged my mum not to get him one. He had one previously, but neglected it, and my mum ended up rehoming it, for which he never let her hear the end of it. But of course, she caved, and the same problem persisted. My entitled brother never cared for Spots. I ended up taking over his care. I paid for his vet bills, I fed him, I took him to get groomed, etc. Things came to a head when we had to move in with family members, and they said we were not allowed to bring a dog. My entitled brother didn't do anything to find Spot a new home. It was my problem. I found him a foster home, where I visited him every day after my college classes ended, and I was able to get him back 2 years later when we finally had a place to live again. Additionally, when I moved out of my house for a year, Spot went with me. Spot sleeps with me every night and has my name on all of his records. He's now 10 and has arthritis. He takes meds for his hips and his stomach and needs frequent bathroom breaks. Oh, and he hates the water. So when my little bro said he wasn't asking me, he was telling me, I knew that Spot would be miserable and possibly in pain that whole trip. He hadn't asked or even mentioned taking Spot before, so he's due for a refill on his pills tomorrow. Had I known, I would have gotten the refill sooner. I tried telling him that Spot needs a lot of care, and he said, "Yeah, so just give me everything he needs." And I was so irritated. You wait until the night before to tell me this. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. I could have just taken him and let you panic, but I was being nice telling you ahead of time. That did it. I don't know why, but every alarm bell went off in my head. I grabbed my purse, put on my slippers, and told Spot to get in the car. I drove to my fiance's house and slept here last night. I was going to move into my fiance's house this summer, but now I'm asking myself, why the heck am I waiting? Everyone on Reddit keeps asking me why I stay home, and right now, I can't remember any of the reasons that I had before. I'm done. My mum is staying out of it right now, and I'm glad because I genuinely don't care what she has to say. I know she doesn't want me to go, but I just can't take my entitled brother's little power trips. He can do whatever he wants to the house. Punching holes in the walls, kicking the appliances, calling the house a dump, but I draw the line at him taking my dog without my permission. That's my baby, and I'm not going to just stand by while he does whatever he wants with my pet when I explicitly told him no, something that he rarely hears. P.S. I occasionally have asked my brother to let Spot out for bathroom breaks since he doesn't work until the afternoon, and his response is that he's always too busy to do that. He's given me no reason to trust him to care for my dog for even a few hours, let alone 3 days on a fishing trip. And also, one final edit here on the first post. My brother does not know where my fiance lives, and even if he did, my fiance's 2 huge German shepherds would devour him. Okay, so that was the initial post. Now, the great thing about this is that just 6 days ago at the time of recording, and remember I said that that initial post was made 6 months ago, we got an update. However, before we get into this, first of all, I don't think I've covered this person's stories before, but I feel like I really need to go back and have a look at their profile and see what stories and what accounts they've told about their brother in the past. This clearly is not the first post they've made, and I reckon there's probably quite a lot there. So let me know in the comments down below if after this you want me to go back on this person's profile and have a look at what they've posted on Reddit before. But without further ado, I'm excited to get into the update. As I said, Just posted a few days ago and see what happened with Spot. Okay, so here we go. Let's get into the update. First of all, OP says, I would like to thank everyone for all their support, well wishes, and for reaching out to check on me and Spot. It was such a relief to know that so many of you would have had the same instinctual reaction to my situation. Yeah, I didn't give my thoughts there because, to be honest, it was pretty obvious. Spot is clearly your dog and would be in serious danger if he was left with your entitled brother. I think we can all agree on that. So, after many months, I finally have an update for you all. Firstly, my entitled brother has finally moved out. However, he didn't move out until the end of July. He was supposed to move out by May 31st, but my mother allowed him to push the date back twice. I wasn't pleased, but since I moved out abruptly in April, I couldn't let myself get worked up over it. I was focusing on making a safe space for Spot and myself. Secondly, since my entitled brother has moved out, my mother has made the house her own, and I am proud to say it's finally everything she envisioned it to be. The house looks immaculate now that my entitled bro isn't crowding her space. Actually, this is something that I'm going to have to go back and look at on this person's account. Was that talk about your entitled brother punching the walls and just trashing the house legit? I thought at the time it might be hyperbole, but wow, maybe it is legit. Anyway, let's carry on. She is very proud of all of her home improvement projects and always has something new that she wants to show me when I visit. She seems so happy. The only thing that concerns me is how uncharacteristically friendly my entitled bro has been acting with her since he moved out. More on that later. Thirdly, Spot is doing so much better since we went to live with my fiance and his 2 German shepherds. I think my fiance's dogs understood that Spot is older and not quite as athletic as them, but that didn't stop him from trying to keep up with them. After moving in, Spot's favourite pastimes include running around the huge yard, laying in the sun, and eating the little tasty nuggets that the chickens leave in the yard. Yes, I mean chicken poop. 4. If you have read this far and are wondering what took me so long to update, I do apologise for the delay, but I have a good reason. My fiance and I bought our first home. We fell in love with a tiny little house in our ideal area and have been working on renovating it. I'm very pleased to announce that we moved in last month. And if that wasn't good enough news for you, here is the biggest announcement of all. We got married. After all the hard work we put into the house, we knew it was the perfect place for us to tie the knot. We invited his dad, his siblings, and my mum over, and we had a quick ceremony in our living room amongst unpacked boxes and mix-match furniture. It was perfect. But this wouldn't be an Entitled People post without some entitled bro stories. Here are some of the highlights, for lack of a better term, of what I've dealt with since my last post. I mean, surely go with lowlights there, but to be honest, I think for us, reading this and listening to this, they are going to be highlights. For the 3 to 4 weeks after I moved out, my entitled bro would not stop asking, "Where's Spot? Where's my dog?" over and over. Now, I just ignored him, but while I was silent, he said a lot of very revealing things, such as, "I bet you won't bring Spot back because you're afraid I'll do the same thing to you," meaning taking off with Spot. Now, I wanted to point out the whole reason I felt the need to remove Spot was because he threatened to take my dog without my permission, but I didn't waste my breath. At one point, he got so worked up that he said, "Fine, don't tell me where Spot is. I'll find out," which only solidified my confidence that I made the right choice. Secondly, a couple of months ago, he had information that I needed in order to help our aunt with a task. My aunt asked him to please send me the info so I could complete the task for her. Now, he said he would, but never sent me anything, despite how many times she reminded him. It got to the point where the deadline was getting close, so I had to call and text him multiple times. He refused to give me anything, saying I needed to apologize for being so rude because I had the audacity to ask him for the info. I decided to act fed up and told him, forget it, someone else can do it. I then asked my cousin Molly to text him, saying that she was the one to contact instead. He sent the info to her instantly, and then of course I had Molly just forward it on to me. The look on his face when he later found out I was the one who took care of everything for my aunt was priceless. He enjoys having things to hold over my head. The final thing I will mention is my entitled bro was a nightmare for my mother until the day he moved out. He went through waves of giving my mum the silent treatment, then angrily hounding her for ruining his life, to having personal pity parties and saying things like he was so depressed and he didn't want to live anymore. My mum got so fed up that by his moving out day, she had no pity for him anymore, just actually secondhand embarrassment. But then he did something very strange. He was literally in the middle of yelling at her and blaming her for all of his shortcomings when he suddenly broke down and cried, saying he was so sorry for what he put her through. All he wants is to be loved by his mum and sister, and asking, "What would you do if I killed myself?" My mum said she thought it was a miracle from God, and I tried to gently ask her if it wasn't more likely that it was just a manipulation tactic. She said she is choosing to believe that this is a sign that her son is finally changing for the better. I find it very hard to believe. So now he acts as if he was never the hexspawn that plagued our home for 8 years, and my mum is so happy because she thinks that now her son is reformed. I think it's more likely that he's just trying to stay in her good graces because he wants to use her as a safety net. My mum claims she would now never take him back in unless it was a true emergency, but I don't know about that. That is the only thing about my entitled brother that makes me uneasy to this day. Other than that, I have no interest in dealing with him and will not be including him in anything. He does not have my address, and my relatives know not to share it with him. Although I have had to deal with a lot of drama these past few months, I am so relieved that I left that tumultuous home life when I did. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have had a safe space for myself or Spot. I wouldn't finally have a home of my own with someone who loves me completely. And I wouldn't have married the sweetest, most supportive man I've ever met. I'm so grateful to be able to write this happy update on my couch in my home with my husband at my side and my sweet Spot laying his head in my lap. Thank you again for being here for me and for waiting so patiently for an update. I hope it was worth the wait. Thank you. Okay, so there we go. A fantastic ending to this one. I'm glad that everyone seems, well, you especially seem to be getting on well. Spot sounds really happy. You obviously are. And your husband, yeah, fantastic news. I do agree with you though. Like, there's no way that just in one sort of split second does somebody suddenly realize how horrible they've been for the past 8 years and go, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just don't feel loved by my mum and sister." Well, maybe there's a reason you don't feel loved by your mum and sister, and that's that 8 years of just pure entitlement. There's no way that somebody could just do that for 8 years and then suddenly be like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't actually realize what I was doing all this time." No, I don't believe it for 1 second. It's definitely a manipulation tactic. Am I the jerk for not wanting my sister at my wedding since she is in a wheelchair and will take up all of the spotlight? My sister, who is 26, has been on and off out of hospital. I'm going to call her Anna. Anna got cancer when she was 15 and was able to beat it. Ever since, she's been having growths, and anytime one appears, we're worried about the cancer coming back. My issue is that she always makes these announcements that she needs to go to the doctors again at the worst times. At the beginning, I thought it was just bad timing, but it's happened so many times when I hit a milestone. My graduations, my birthdays, my engagement party. Anytime she makes an announcement she needs to go back to the hospital, my whole family will flock to her. I've had my birthday dinner turn into my relatives flocking to her for the whole night. I had a dinner party to announce my wedding date for my relatives. It was going so great and it was a fun time until Anna told Mum she needs to go back to the hospital. Soon, everyone forgot about the reason for the dinner party and it was quiet. My aunt even stepped in to do a prayer for Anna. Another event was taken over. I went low contact with her after that. She was invited to the wedding and it's in 2 weeks. I learned today that she is on and off in a wheelchair from my mum. She's gonna need to take it just in case for the wedding. I asked if the rest of the family was informed and she told me no. I told both my mum and Anna that they need to inform them. They told me they don't want to worry them and won't do that. I had enough and told them you need to tell them before my wedding. Again, a no. So I then informed them that Anna is no longer invited. This started a huge argument about how I'm a jerk, but my point is that I'm sick of her stealing the spotlight. That is what will happen if she rolls in with a wheelchair. Okay, not gonna lie, when I first read the title, I thought, goodness me, this person is very, very ableist. But in reality, I don't know. It's a tough one, but yeah, I agree with OP. And I feel like at this point, yeah, you should rescind your sister's invite. If she seemingly does this on purpose, and let's be honest, right? The coincidences here are far too frequent and it just seems to happen all the time, especially with you and your life, that yeah, it's really not a coincidence anymore. And yeah, you got to rescind that invite. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sure your sister has difficulties. I mean, having cancer at that early age is just unbelievably unlucky. And there's no doubt in my mind that she probably is still dealing with lots of issues and has, you know, unfortunately got a lot of illness, but I just don't think that can line up perfectly with everything going on in your life. And it does seem as if, yeah, she is taking the limelight away from you. She's probably going to do the same, or at least by being there in a wheelchair. Well, I don't know. That's harsh. I think she should be allowed to go, but I get your point as to why you don't want her there, because you know that it's going to take the limelight away from you on your big day. Thinking about it again though, it does seem very harsh. Just because she's coming in a wheelchair, is that like enough to say she can't come? I guess the point is that you're asking her to tell people in advance so they expect it and aren't suddenly like, oh my goodness me, what's happened to you? All the attention on her, as it often is, as we've seen from OP's examples. So yeah, tough one, but OP, yeah, I think I can say that you're not the jerk here. Now for our next post. Am I the jerk for ruining Christmas and being upset that the only gifts I got from my family were joke gifts? For some background, my family likes to play pranks with Christmas and birthday gifts. It's nothing new. I, a 21-year-old female, as well as my 5 siblings, who range from 29 to 37 years old, have all been pranked on our birthdays and on Christmas, and usually it's 1 or 2 gifts. This Christmas though, I was the only person to get all joke gifts. For example, I unwrapped a MacBook from my brother, but when I opened it, it was just some chocolate, which I don't eat, so I gave it away, and the MacBook was actually given to my sister inside a bag she wanted. Another gift was what I thought was a book that I put on my Christmas list, but was actually just the book cover put on a dictionary. When I asked my mum about the book, she told me she gave it to my sister-in-law. This went on with each present that my siblings or parents gave me. AirPods, just a charger block. Adapter, gift cards used that had $0 balance. A card with Monopoly money, and so on, totaling about 12 joke gifts. I realized I went out of my way to get everyone something they wanted or that they'd like, and I didn't get anything. At this point, I was bummed, so I went to the living room to watch TV with my boyfriend. At dinner, they were all talking about how much they loved their gifts, and when my dad asked why I hadn't said anything about mine, I said there wasn't much to say. Everyone but my boyfriend laughed, and my mum said it was no big deal as everyone else also got some joke gifts. I told her every gift I got was a joke gift, and that the ones they got were also then followed by real ones. My dad told me I needed to relax as I'm making a big deal about it, and I'd have next Christmas to get the stuff on my list. Not wanting to go back and forth, I told my boyfriend that I wanted to leave, and can we please spend the rest of Christmas break with his family, then go home. My family got mad and told me not to go and to just stay because it wasn't serious. I left and put my phone on Do Not Disturb during the drive, and by the time we got to my boyfriend's parents' house, I had several missed calls and texts from them, calling me names like ungrateful, sensitive, and childish. They said I ruined Christmas and made my parents upset because I left. The next day, I exchanged and opened gifts with my boyfriend and his family, and one of the gifts I'd gotten was the book I wanted. That's the book my mum pretended to give me. I posted it on my Instagram story, and not even 0 minutes after posting it, my sister sent a screenshot of my story to the family group chat, and they basically got mad at me for leaving, telling me I ruined Christmas over some presents. They told me I owe everyone, especially my parents, an apology, because my mum spent New Year's sad because of my actions. Now, I just want an outside party to tell me if I'm the jerk here. Am I in the wrong for being upset about the gifts and for leaving? After reading their messages and sitting on this for a few days, I now feel like maybe I was upset over nothing and I need to apologize to them. Okay, now this one is just clearly OP is not the jerk. Sorry, like that's not even up for debate. What sort of prank is this? I just don't get it. Like, it's not even funny. If you did it once with something small, yes, that'd be funny. For example, I don't know if you have this in America or anywhere else in the world, but say you had, chocolate oranges, a very popular thing here in the UK, something that's synonymous with Christmas, kind of just a chocolate orange. That's what it says. It's not really orange, but it's like chocolatey orange, and it's lovely, and I love it. And it's a big part of Christmas, in my opinion. Funny joke here would be, put a tennis ball inside a chocolate orange wrapper and give it to somebody. And then that's a joke, and it's funny, it's lighthearted, and then give them a real chocolate orange after that. Don't fake give them a MacBook, fake give them the book they really want, fake give them AirPods, and then just not actually give them anything. How is that funny? Like, pranks have to be funny, surely. And this, therefore, isn't a prank, it's just bullying a member of your own family. Very, very odd. And then they go ahead and get upset when you leave. I wonder why. I want to pick out this comment from someone actually, which I think sums it up really well. I'll put it on screen right now. They say, do not apologize. Your family sucks and you've done nothing wrong. I would write something like this in the group chat. Happy New Year, guys. I understand that mum is sad that I left on Christmas, but you need to understand that you all made me sad on Christmas Day. I did not receive a single thoughtful gift from you guys. Not one. Every single gift I opened was a prank, where the joke was that you actually didn't get me something I would like, but instead you got something intentionally to upset me. My hope is that you all just didn't realize that every single gift given to me was meant as a joke, but it was. Every single one. It isn't being ungrateful to be disappointed in that, and I think you all know that. I am ready to move on from this disappointing Christmas and believe you that next year will be different, but I'll not be apologizing for leaving on Christmas when you all hurt me. And there we go. That is the perfect response. Don't apologize, whatever you do. Am I the jerk for not inviting my friend's husband to dinner because he eats way too much? My friend has been married for a year now to her firefighter husband. She is the only one in the friend group that is married. I usually host dinners every couple of months, and we're going to do a late one for the holidays on Friday. I usually invite him, but money has gotten tight due to the holidays, and he eats so much. I understand why, but it always results in me having to double recipes or I run out of food. So this time, I told everyone that I want to just do a girls' night. This means my friend's husband is not invited. If he isn't there, there is enough food for everyone without double recipes. She called me up, asking why I'm doing a girls' night. And I told her the truth, that I can't afford to make double for dinner and her husband eats a lot. She called me a jagoff, and now she's telling my friends why. Everyone is split, and no one is offering to help with the food bill. Okay, very interesting one here, and to be honest, I'm actually left with a few more questions rather than my answer to your question, OP, as to whether you're the jerk or not. Because I feel like there's a little bit of stuff missing, which is very imperative information to find out if you're in the wrong or not. First of all, does your friend's husband actually say that he needs to eat more food? Right? Does he say at the end of the meal, oh, I'm hungry, you got any more? Or is he just eating food that is there because you've cooked it? I know it works both ways. You cook more because you know he's coming and he eats more. But if there wasn't the food there for him, would he not just be happy enough just to have the same amount as everyone else? And then, yeah, maybe he can have some more later or have a snack later or whatever, up to his own discretion. But is he actually explicitly saying to you, I need or want more food? I think that's a big point, because if he is, then I do think that, of course, makes him and your friend the jerk. Whereas if he isn't, then can't you just make the same amount of food that you would for anyone else? I don't know. Now, second point I need to say is, why does your friend care that much if it's a girls' night or not? I mean, I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to host. Having a girls' night is fine. I don't know why your friend would then call you and ask why your husband is not invited. Her husband isn't invited because it's a girls' night. That I found weird. Now, finally, I don't know about saying to her that you can't afford to make double for dinner and her husband eats a lot, because that is just rude. I know it's factual maybe in your head, but that is just rude and unnecessary. I think you could have said something else, or just said, it's a girls' night, I want to do a girls' night. Because saying that, like, she's obviously going to tell her husband and he's going to be like, what? It's obviously going to play on his mind, whatever, and going to annoy multiple people by saying that. So I'm not sure you should have done that. So yeah, all of that combined leads me to get to a conclusion, which, to be honest, I can't quite get to. I feel like I need you guys to come in the comments down below on this one and help me out. What do you think? I mean, delving into it even deeper, no one's offering to help with the food bill. I think that's poor. If you've asked them. Because if you're the one that always hosts these nights, then, you know, people should help. Or at least, you know, financially help in some way. Whether they bring around drinks or flowers, I guess, or something. I don't know. It's up to your friend group, of course. But yeah, if you're making a lot of food and it's consistently you, then it would be nice for people to help out. I know it's not the done thing, but it would be nice. Overall, I would say that you're not the jerk, but you could have handled the situation better. And I think you just need to have a conversation, like a proper adult conversation with your friend and her husband to come to some sort of consensus, because there definitely is one there. You just need to find it. Am I the jerk for ordering food to go when my friend group wanted to split the check evenly? This has been an ongoing issue. I have a friends group that likes eating nicer food. Personally, for me, I'm fine getting something cheap on the menu. The issue is they always want to split the check. I've had the conversation so many times that I want to pay for what I ordered. It results in an argument where I have to bend or everyone is mad at me. I also make a lot more than my friends, so it always results in them basically calling me cheap. They don't get that I want to pay for my meal and that is it. Anyways, we went out to eat yesterday and they all ordered things that were around $30. I got the house salad and my total was around $12. They told the server to split the bill and I didn't want to fight about it again. I asked the server to add onto the bill an entree and dessert for me to take home. This resulted in my bill going up into the 30s. So they asked what I was doing. I told them I'm getting more food. They got upset that I increased the price they needed to pay. This resulted in another argument and they think I'm a jerk. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, absolutely love what you did at the end. That is just so good. Yes, it's petty, of course it is. But is it fair? In my opinion, it is. If you are spending that much less than other people at dinner, then you don't have to pay the same amount as them. And I don't actually think it matters if you earn loads more, because if you're spending like a third of what they're spending, then you should be paying a third of what they're spending. Now, if it was more like you were spending, say, $20, $25, and they were spending $30, then I'd say, okay, there's no need to be pedantic, just split. Yeah, you might pay a few more dollars than what you actually paid for, but that's part of life. And, you're with your friends having a good time anyway. It doesn't really matter. It's a nice thing to do. But doing this and then doing what you did, I think is very clever. My mum always says, actually, now she doesn't drink really, and when she goes to dinner with her friends, they drink, and obviously alcohol is more expensive than getting a tap water or something, so she gets like a sparkling water, or a still water actually, I think it's a still water, but instead of getting tap water, she'll pay for a nice bottle of still water that obviously is nicer than tap water. Now you could say, is there a need to do that? Probably not. But she says, if everyone else is buying expensive drinks and, beers and glasses of wine or whatever, why shouldn't I, if we are going to split the bill, get a drink that I want as well? But yeah, it's more expensive than a tap water, and it is still a water, but that gets me closer to what everyone else is paying for, and it's fair. And I say to that, yeah, that makes sense. And I think I would say the same in this. This is obviously a little bit more petty, buying a whole other meal, but once again, it makes sense to me, and I like what you did. I mean, you could also just say to the staff or whatever, I want to pay myself, and just not even have your friends in that conversation, although that could get a bit messy. So again, yeah, love what you did. Let's carry on. Now for our final Am I the Jerk post. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter-in-law she eats much more than me, so of course she is bigger? I'm so tired. My son and my daughter-in-law are staying with me to save money. I cook and we have a serve yourself policy. The thing is, she'll eat a lot more than me. For example, I made chicken. I'd eat only 1 chicken breast and she'd have 3. Basically, she eats a lot more than me, and I don't substitute for lower calorie stuff. I'm not going to use skim milk instead of cream, for example. She is overweight and has been going on about how it doesn't make sense that I am much smaller. I asked if she was joking, and she confirmed that she didn't understand why she is gaining weight. I told her that she eats a lot more than me, so of course she's bigger. This started an argument about how I'm shaming her and not being a good host. My son wants me to apologize, but I find it ridiculous, and this is common sense. Wow, what a way to end it. Just saying, you eat a lot, therefore you're fat. I think you could have handled that a lot better, personally. I don't think you're necessarily the jerk here because you are telling the truth, but there was a lot better ways of handling it than this. I mean, why didn't you go down the education route? Actually, the more I think about it, the more I have to say that was kind of a, jerk move. Just saying, what? It does make sense. You eat 3 times as much as me, therefore, of course you're bigger. It's tough, but I guess fair. But yeah, I think you should have handled it a little bit better, personally. Although you could say that, the truth hurts, and sometimes it is better to hear the truth properly, matter-of-factly, than someone sort of like, stepping around it saying, oh, you're not overweight, you're just, a little bit bigger, that's all. You probably just have a slow metabolism, it's probably genes, etc., etc. No, in reality, you fat you just eat too much. Sometimes you need to hear that. That is tough. Well, there you go. Am I the jerk for saying you should have thought about that before you procreated? My ex and I have a 13-year-old daughter, Nicole. Nicole has several medical conditions that require a lot of attention. She will need some sort of in-home assistance for the rest of her life. While we have an aide to help a couple of days a week, it is still a challenge. The outcome of Nicole's condition became clear when she was 2. At that point, my ex and I agreed we wouldn't have more kids because it wouldn't be fair to anyone. There'd be no way we could focus attention on 2 kids. Someone would lose out in this situation. We divorced when Nicole was 5. We originally had 50-50 custody. 3 years later, my ex remarried. His new wife, Callie, is nice. My ex did say that she didn't understand the severity of Nicole's condition. I figured there was a learning curve. Eventually, Callie basically said she wanted to be hands off, which I respected, though I wondered how it would work considering Nicole lives with them half the time. Last year, my ex and Callie had a baby. I was a little surprised, given my ex was always firm on not having more kids, but figured it wasn't any of my business. He did begin to complain that it was a lot of work juggling Nicole and the baby. I sympathised, but I really didn't know what else to say. Recently, the venting got worse. He said Callie yelled at him for taking Nicole to her physical therapy appointment instead of helping her with the baby. He brought up potentially having Nicole stay with me more. I wasn't entirely shocked, but it angered me. I said Nicole was his daughter. He can't just abandon that responsibility. He asked what he was supposed to do about the baby. I said, maybe you should have thought of that before you procreated. I mean, really, we discussed this 10 years ago as to why it would be hard to juggle 2 kids. Why did you think having another would be a good idea? He got quiet and said Callie wanted a baby. I said that isn't enough of a reason, and maybe he should have thought harder before bringing more life into this world. The conversation ended with me saying I'd call my lawyer and we could arrange for him to have less custody, as I'd rather my daughter be properly cared for than be viewed as a burden. Callie called me that night very upset that I'd made my ex cry and that I said her baby shouldn't exist. I said that's not what I said completely, more that they didn't think it through. She called me a jerk. So, am I in the wrong? Alright, good one to start. OP, first of all, clearly you're not the jerk here. You had that agreement with your now ex. You stuck to that. You've said, I'm not having any more kids. It doesn't matter that you've divorced and he's found a new partner. He made that agreement. And practically speaking, yeah, you guys don't have enough time or resources for another child, even though he's with a new partner now. Doesn't change anything. Nicole has to be the focus. For your ex, I think, what is he doing? Genuinely, what is he doing? Like, he knows he won't be able to look after another kid as well, even with another partner, and he still has to do 50-50 custody. You both know that there's not enough time for another kid, and ultimately, he's just being super selfish by saying, oh yeah, well, Callie wants another kid, so I'm gonna have one. That's probably gonna stretch me pretty thin, but, you know, you can look after Nicole more, can't you? And I can focus on my brand new wife and my do-over life, and, you know, it'll be fine, right? No. Doesn't work like that. I also do put some blame on Callie, of course, as well, for seemingly pressuring your ex-OP into having a kid. She should have known, and I'm sure she did, when she got together with your ex. I mean, he must have told her, right? I have this kid, Nicole. She has difficulties. She's gonna need in-home assistance for the rest of her life. We're gonna have to be there for her a lot. I cannot have another child. Like, surely he said that. Maybe he didn't. Maybe I'm asking and expecting too much of your ex, OP, but he must have at least given Callie some indication. But yeah, I feel like they're just like, oh, we can kind of forget about Nicole now. No, it doesn't work like that. As OP said, it's your kid. Am I the jerk for kicking my brother and his family out after he tried to give me a whore-evention? I'm having a hard time feeling remorseful, and I'm unwilling to apologize for calling my brother out and for asking him to vacate my property. I've given him many chances to stop this behavior, and my brother won't stop shaming me for having been a stripper before I got my prestigious job. These are his literal words. I'm a nurse anaesthetist. He's been making offhand remarks about me having been a stripper since he found out 6 years ago. He gets on these long tirades about how I am ungodly, unholy, and that the sins I committed can never be forgiven unless I repent and let Christ into my heart. Now, I am not religious. I'm certainly not a Christian, and I will never be one, but my brother refuses to accept this. Also, I only started stripping because his drug and gambling addiction ruined mine and our parents' lives. He remortgaged their house, took out loans and several credit cards in our parents' name, and even sold our parents' identity to his former dealer. I didn't know how bad the situation was until I came home one day from university and found strangers living in our house. My father was too embarrassed to let me know why they were living out of their car. They also never reported my brother to the police because my parents didn't want him back in prison. Last time he went in for 2 years, and me and my parents were blackmailed to pay his prison debts. So, when I found out that my parents, baby sister, and baby brother were living out of their car, I decided to work as a stripper. I made good money, and with that money, I was able to house my family, pay off my parents' debt, my brother's debt, and put my younger siblings through college and university. During that time, I also paid for his rehab and he got his life together. Now he is happily married, employed, sober, and with a child on the way. FYI, I paid for his wife's IVF treatments. Last Sunday, our parents invited some people over for a big catered dinner. My brother and his wife thought this would be the perfect time to turn it into what he called a whore-evention and embarrass me in front of all the guests. I completely lost it. I was so enraged that I spent most of the evening cussing him and my sister-in-law out. I reminded him that I would never have been a stripper if he hadn't tried to ruin us. On Monday, I drew up an eviction notice and sent it to him. I want to cut all ties with him and his family. I am truly done with him. Almost everyone is telling me I am right in being angry, but that it's terrible to kick him and his wife out when they are due to have their first child in 9 weeks. My parents are begging me to forgive him, and honestly, I feel like I have been, and I'm being reasonable. I've given them 90 days. I'm done being called the whore of Babylon and the downfall of mankind. Yeah, this is just horrible to read. I'm sorry, this is absolutely disgraceful. After all you've done, earning all that money, putting yourself in, and probably, I mean, to be fair, you didn't say if you liked it or not, but I imagine that a decent number of people who have worked in the industry are doing it for money rather than pleasure. Maybe I'm wrong there, maybe I'm assuming, but that's kind of what I think. You've put all that work in, you know, put kids through college, got your brother out of a unbelievable hole, yet it seems like he doesn't care at all now. He has no gratitude towards what you did and is actually throwing it back in your face. Oh, you made me all this money and helped pretty much save my life and let us have children by stripping, therefore you're a disgrace? Right, weird. It's very, very weird. To be honest, I wouldn't give him 90 days. I'd get him gone immediately. Imagine that. You work so hard and give so much of your money away to somebody to help them so much, and they say this: cut ties, get him out, don't give him 90 days. Am I the jerk for not showing up for my birthday dinner at a nice restaurant, knowing everyone was waiting for me, and my parents had to pay a deposit for the table? I am a 16-year-old boy, and I'm the second oldest of 4. My older sister, who is 18, has Down syndrome and is medically complex with complex needs. She also has food allergies. My younger sister, who is 13, has a host of food allergies, and some of them are very serious, and she's also on the spectrum. Then we have my younger brother, who is 11. He has a lot of medical issues related to food and allergies that go along with it. We always try to make sure places are accessible for them, especially because my older sister is in a wheelchair. Well, sounds like you have some phenomenal genetics going on in your family, OP, is all I'll say. Anyway, this does mean I can be overlooked. It does mean making sacrifices or accepting that things will never be as far as it would be for a kid in a family with less extra or special needs. I'm used to not getting my favorite dishes, and I'm used to not getting my top pick for vacations because my parents don't think it's accessible enough or autism friendly enough. I'm used to my siblings never getting turned down for that stuff. After a while, it became something I expected. I was lucky that my maternal grandparents tried to make up for it when they could, and my best friend's family would also include me in their family for stuff like meals out. My favourite restaurant in our city is this Indian place. My favourite dish is their samosas. I never get to eat there with my parents and siblings, and we never get takeout from there because it's not deemed safe for all my siblings. Sometimes that stinks, especially when my parents proclaim they always get their kids' favourite food from their favourite restaurant for their birthdays each year. This year, my parents made a big deal over me turning 16, and they told me to pick my favourite place for us to have a family dinner for my birthday. A family dinner that included extended family. I told them my favourite place, and they told me that wouldn't work. I asked them if they wanted my favourite place or a place catered to my siblings. They asked me if I didn't want to cater to my siblings, and I said no. They asked where did I want to go. I said the Indian place. They gave me one of those looks and said they would give me more time to think. A couple of weeks after, they asked me where I wanted to eat for my birthday, and I told them my answer had not changed. They asked if I could really enjoy my birthday knowing it wasn't accessible and safe for my siblings to eat there, and I said yes, since it's meant to be my birthday, and they wanted me to say my favourite restaurant. They told me they would book the family favourite, and went ahead and did that. The family favourite has nothing I actually like, I just tolerate it. They had everything planned, invited everyone, and when the evening came for the dinner, I just didn't go. My parents are furious with me. I had everything taken for a week, and they plan to continue the punishment in some way. My grandparents defended me, but my parents said I was rude. So, am I the jerk? Okay, you are definitely not the jerk, OP, and to be honest, I just feel super bad for you. This is a terrible situation to be in. Now, from your parents' perspective, I get it, it's tough. They obviously have children that need a lot more than you do, but that shouldn't mean that you just isolate a child completely and don't listen to them at all. The fact that you've said that you're barely ever allowed to go or just never go out to your favorite places or do your favorite things with your family, it has to be only with other people, is such a joke. Surely, like at one point, your mum could go out with you to the Indian restaurant. Your dad can stay at home and look after the kids for one evening, or just get a babysitter or something, go out on your own with both your parents to your favorite restaurant, so therefore not putting your siblings at risk, and enjoy yourself. Now, with vacations, family vacations, I understand it a little bit more. Like, you do have to cater to all the children, and that is going to limit where you can go. I think you probably understand that as well, OP. But with going out for a meal for your birthday, I mean, have 2 meals. Have one where you go out with your siblings, have one where you go out with your parents and mates or whatever, and people that don't have, allergies and stuff like that, and have a great time at your favorite place. I don't see why that's that hard. Ultimately, the blame obviously has to lie with your parents, who are just completely ignoring your wishes. As I said, fully isolating you from the family. And thankfully, your grandparents are picking up a little bit of the slack, but it's not on them to do this. It's just disgraceful. Oh, to be fair, OP has said below that his best friend's parents even bought him a gift card for the restaurant so he could go out with some of my friends. And his grandparents made sure I was celebrated in a way that actually celebrates me. So, I mean, these people know what to do, and they're not your parents. Your parents, as I said again, are a disgrace. Am I the jerk for dropping off my stepkids with my in-laws and saying that they are not my problem anymore? My wife passed away just before last Thanksgiving. It came out of nowhere, and I'm somewhat broken. To make it worse, my stepkids have decided that since I'm not their father, they don't have to obey me anymore. They are teens, and they have never been my biggest fans. They love their dad, and I was only ever their mum's husband. However, when Dina was alive, they treated our home well and me with respect. After she died, they became jerks. Yes, I know, their mum died, it sucks, but that was my wife and the mother of my children. I'm also having a tough time dealing with it. Their paternal grandparents are also trashing on me for not being more understanding of all they're going through. I've tried. I've offered them counselling. I've given them space. I've been there for them. I'm at my wit's end. The last straw was when we were over there for supper last week. I said it was time to go so I could get the littles to bed. My stepkids said that they didn't want to go and that I should leave them and come back for them. It is a 2-hour drive. I said no. Their grandparents said I was being too hard on them and that I should let them stay. I'm having a hard time with 2 small children, the loss of my wife, and 2 teen jerks without having my in-laws pile on to make my life more difficult. So I did. I also packed up their stuff. Instead of coming back for them, I dropped off their stuff at their grandparents' house. I have 2 kids under 5 to take care of. I don't really have time to baby 2 teens that are just making my life harder. My house is clean for the first time in weeks. My kids are sleeping through the night. My stepkids are living with their uncle in the same city as me so they can finish high school with their friends. Everyone on their dad's side is against me. I really don't care. I was told by both of them and by their father that I'm not to try and parent them. So, I'm not. I actually do not have any parental rights over them. Their dad was not even okay with me being a contact for them at school, so his parents bear the contacts. My wife left behind a small life insurance policy which I will divide between the 4 kids. But I was the breadwinner in my house. I bought pretty much everything there for the last 8 years. So now it's all mine. My in-laws are calling me a jerk for abandoning the kids, but I have 2 kids that need me more. The older 2 have a dad as well as grandparents to help them. My kids do too, I guess, but they also have me, and I want them to have a peaceful home. Okay, great stuff. You're definitely not the jerk. To me, it sounds like everyone has got what they wanted. Your stepkids are seemingly happier. You're happier. I'm sure your biological children are happier as well. What's the problem? The only people that are getting annoyed at you are the in-laws. I think it's completely fine. You found a solution. And yeah, you've taken them up on their offer. Good for you. Also, if you were such a hindrance throughout this entire thing, like, where is the dad? Where is their dad in this? Your stepkids, that is. Like, only when it came to paragraph 4 or 5 or 7, actually, Yeah, okay, no, actually it's paragraph 8. No, paragraph 9. Only when I got to the 9th paragraph here did we even mention their dad. That is how irrelevant he seems to have been in this whole thing. Where is he? It's your kids, step in, date them. I don't know, OP's definitely not the jerk, no matter what's going on there. Now for our final Am I the Jerk post of this episode. Am I the jerk for cancelling our anniversary trip because my husband drowned my terrarium? I am a 29-year-old woman, and I travelled across the country to visit a company regarding an incredible job offer. I spent 2 days touring the company to decide if it would be the right fit for me after years of self-employment. After meeting with the company, I visited my sister, who is 32, and her family a few towns over. We barely get to see each other because of work and distance, so it was wonderful to spend a few days with her, the family, and her new baby. I was gone for a total of 8 days. When I returned home, I was excited to spend time with my husband and tell him about the trip, my visit with my sister, my impression of the city, etc. We were meant to be celebrating our anniversary and decided to put off the discussion about whether or not I should accept the job offer until after our anniversary getaway. I'd arranged for us to go on a luxury train ride because he's a big train enthusiast, and we were meant to leave for the trip 3 days after I got home. This is when the problem started. I have a very large closed bioactive terrarium, which I made with my mother 15 years ago. It's one of my favourite things I have of her before she passed. This terrarium is my pride and joy and has come with me everywhere since we planted it. It was always super healthy and beautiful, and I've only ever had to open it 4 times to do a little maintenance and watering. My husband knows all of this, which is why I don't understand why he decided to tamper with it in my absence. I didn't notice the night I got home because I was exhausted, but the next morning I went to check on the terrarium to find it in a terrible state. The roots were rotting and the plants dying and moulding. He told me that the day I left, he poured a few cups of water into the vessel and sealed it again. I was so mad I cried, and it turned into a huge argument because it's just a plant and all you do is look at it anyway. He called me ungrateful and overdramatic, and that I should appreciate that his intention was to help me, and that he didn't ask because he didn't want to bother me on my trip. I ended up cancelling our anniversary plans, partly because I was so upset that I didn't want to go, and partly because I wanted to try and salvage the plants, and that would require time. He hit the roof when I told him, and is now sleeping in a separate room and refusing to speak to me because, according to him, I'm being petty and trying to destroy our marriage. Am I being oversensitive about my plants? My friends are pretty evenly split and have pointed out that he was just trying to be thoughtful, however misguided it was. Okay, I think that makes it 5 for 5, not the jerks here. There's no way you can possibly be the jerk. Like, yeah, he was trying to help, but surely throughout the time that you've been with your husband, he has known how to look after your terrarium and what exactly you do or not do, actually, to make sure everything's okay. If you just leave it as it is for the majority of the time, surely he'd know that. Like, or at least he'd ask you before chucking water in it to make sure the plant's all right. It's just stupid. Now look, he probably is just a dumb guy when it comes to plants, like most of us are. I mean, look at that, guys. Does that look real? It's not. Do you want to know why? Because I probably couldn't be trusted to look after a plant, and also can't be bothered, right? I don't really care. Maybe it's a guy thing, but I wouldn't, like, say, you know, someone that cared about plants was like, oh yeah, I'm leaving, and then didn't even mention their plant. Either I'd be like, okay, well, do you want me to look after it? What do I do? Or I'd just say, if they wanted me to, then they would have told me, especially when it comes to my wife. Do you get the point? I mean, look at this. Don't trust guys with plants. I don't know. What a stigma that is, and a sweeping statement, but it's the truth. Nonetheless, your husband's an idiot. Sorry to let you know. Am I, a 38-year-old man, the jerk for cutting back on work to prove a point to my 30-year-old wife? My wife is usually an angel of a woman, but has recently gotten into a friendship with a woman whom I personally believe is a bad influence on her. Not in a patronizing way, more of a lay down with dogs, get up with fleas type of situation. I never said anything about her childishness or her very radical misandry because frankly, it doesn't affect me. Until it did. A few months ago, my wife began pressuring me to do more around the house. Before I get an instant "you're the jerk" here, we already split chores and childcare. Admittedly, she had a bigger cut than I because she is a stay-at-home mum, but I do most of the cooking. breakfasts and dinners, lunch is her responsibility for her and the boys. I take out the garbage and I do laundry, and I deep clean the bathrooms once a week. I do also help with our boys' homework and such. She insists that I am not doing enough and that I should be doing more around the house. I tried having discussions with her, asking what she expected from me. Namely, all chores and child rearing should be my duty, it seems. And for months, it seemed to be going nowhere. She used the D word more than once when speaking on this, which felt manipulative. I presume in this context, the D word means divorce. It boiled over when we were out with friends one night, and she began talking about how I never helped out and how I use her as a house slave. Those were her words. I will admit, I saw red. Now, this next part is where I may be the jerk. I didn't say anything that night, but the next day I asked my boss to be given reduced hours for the next little bit due to stress. And I took over everything in the house. I cooked breakfast and I made lunch for the boys before I drove them to school. I cleaned the house top to bottom. I did every dish we had twice and so on. My wife was blindingly happy and bragged to her friend that she finally had me worn in. She didn't lift a finger for around a month. Then she began asking why we never went on dates anymore, complaining that she wanted to get her nails done as they were growing in. I explained that I had to take that out of our budget so that we could continue to afford everything else. But we could absolutely have a movie night in and I could paint her nails for her. She was unhappy with that solution, so I asked her if she would want to get a part-time job for either luxuries. You would have thought I asked if she wanted to join a cult. She then asked if I could just pick up more shifts at work to cover her other expenses, and used the phrase, "be a man," which I found more than a little insulting. I then asked her if she would be willing to go back to splitting the chores and such, which is when she began to catch on that the two were related. She yelled at me that I was being a manipulative jerk for doing this, and even claimed it was financial abuse. I stood strong for a while, but now I am questioning my methods, because even I feel that what I did was a bit underhanded. So, am I the jerk? Okay, so that is it for the first post. Now, before we get into my thoughts about that, first of all, I picked out some comments from other Redditors asking questions to OP. Someone said, "Why are you still with her when she treats you like that?" A very valid question, to be fair. OP replies, "I love her with everything I got. She is an excellent mother, and honestly, before she met this friend, we were both blissfully happy to the best of my knowledge." Someone else said, "How did she suddenly notice that she wasn't getting her nails done or going out on dates? Did you block the credit card from everything but the grocery store?" "No," OP replied. "For one, she has her own card, though we do only have one bank account. I set her nail and hair appointments because she hates making phone calls, and she asked why I didn't take her out anymore. She could have spent from the card without saying anything, I suppose, but upon budgeting, we would have been in trouble if over 300 was gone from a night out with friends." OP also added a little bit more information about his wife and their relationship, saying she had always wanted to be a stay-at-home mum before we got together. I try not to say this part because while her two boys are not mine biologically, they are my sons. But being a single mother was incredibly taxing for her because working in the public was too much. I had a bit of experience with being a single father myself. I have a son of my own, but I was looking to advance my career and was more than happy to take over the bills for a lessened load at home. Now, another Redditor actually said this below, which I don't agree with, but I thought I'd mention nonetheless. "So you're paying to raise another man's children?" OP said, "I do not like this comment. Those are my kids, no one else's, and regardless of what happens with their mother, I hope those boys know that." Just, I guess, confirming how much he loves those sons as we move forward in this story. A couple of other people also asked if things have changed since they first got together, and OP said, "I can tell you, but it may be a little bit mundane. When we first got married, she would give me shoulder and back massages every day after work and have my favorite music playing when I opened the door, even though she hates bluegrass. She would make me coffee while I was getting dressed. She made sure to pick up extra crunchy peanut butter from the store, even though I'm the only person who likes it. We'd have movie night twice a week with the kids and a date night to ourselves once a week. I have always had trouble sleeping, and I don't want to take pills for it, so she always had the bed ready for me, a heating pad already turned on, my pajamas on the bed. She would run her fingers through my hair until I fell asleep and would wake me up herself instead of the alarm because she knew it put me in a better mood. None of which I asked for. She is a good wife and wanted to because she knew that's what I liked, and she did it. She hasn't done a 180. Some of this is still true. At least it was until I cut down my hours. that was really when she stopped doing anything at all. And right now she's angry, so I'm on the couch, awake and regretful. Personally, I think she's stubborn. I don't think she even really wants it. She just wants to prove that I would do it if she asks. She has a troubled history with men, and that's why I tend to be forgiving when things do happen. And finally, someone asked, a troubled history with men? What do you mean by that? And OP said, it's not something I'm comfortable talking about, but believe me when I say, what happened was not her fault. Okay, so there we go for the first post. Now, there is an update coming, the first update, which was posted just 6 days later. But for now, my initial thoughts are that you are not the jerk, OP. I do feel like you're getting badly treated by your wife, and it's a shame that it's come to this point and things have clearly changed from when you first got together. I don't necessarily know if it's 100% to do with this new friendship of your wife's. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Ultimately, it's your wife's fault that things are happening like this and she's got to look at herself. But yeah, for now, that was the initial post. Let's get into the first update. Now, this is where this story takes a little bit of a turn for the worse, really, and I guess gets a bit more serious. The title of this is, how do I explain to / help my sons to understand that their mother is going to rehab? I have never been in a situation like this. I am a former addict myself, but I didn't have children then. Now guys, OP actually briefly mentioned in another post that his wife and he recently had a blowout argument where she admitted to using 2 substances for several months and has agreed to get checked into rehab, which they are currently setting up now, as in at the time this was posted. By the way, on April 26th, 2023. OP continues, how the heck do I bring this up to my sons without them being judgmental or hateful to their mother? Or worse, falling into the same mental space that I am in. I don't want to lie to them, which is what my wife wants, but I am failing to see an alternative that won't destroy them or the respect they have for their mother. I'm swimming blind here, and I've barely slept since this all came out. Any and all advice is appreciated. Thank you in advance. Well, to me, it seems as if things have dramatically got worse over just a week. I guess this did just come out of nowhere, probably for you, and your wife put this on you during an argument, or at least opened up to you during an argument is a better way of phrasing it. But wow, as you can see, things have taken a turn for the worse. First of all, let's have a look at what people are recommending in the comments down below. Someone said, I think it depends. What was she taking? Clonopin and Adipex that she was buying from her friend. I wonder if that is the same friend. She also admitted to having tried coke and several other prescription narcotics, but those were the only 2 she did often. And then someone actually asked, was this the friend that turned her onto radical misandry? And OP said yes, though it's come to light that it wasn't misandry she was being taught, but flagrant drug usage. I've told her that she has to go no contact with this friend or else she will be facing divorce along with everything else. And then finally, OP was asked how old the kids are. He said 9, 12, and 14. Right, let's get straight into the next update. This was posted just 4 days later on April the 30th, 2023. Titled, I yelled at my wife. I was driving my wife to the rehabilitation center we decided on. On the way, she was screaming at me about how she can't believe I'm humiliating her like this, explaining what was happening to the boys and making her message her dealer/friend that they would not be hanging out or using together anymore. About how she doesn't want to go and that I am a controlling monster and how threatening her with divorce and taking primary custody of the boys was too far and I was insane. And I just took it and took it and took it until I just couldn't. And I screamed at her. I screamed that the woman I met would have rather died than had a pillhead junkie around her sons, and how she disgusted me, and that I don't know if she knew how much I was considering leaving her, not because of the addiction, but the way she was freaking acting, like she hadn't brought drugs into our home. Around me, a former addict myself, and around our boys, that I'm beginning to hate her for doing that. That she was becoming exactly what she always cried about her mother being, and that she was lucky I was here to see it before what happened to her goddamn sons. It makes me sick to say, but watching it sink in just how far she had spiraled felt good. Watching her realize that her actions have consequences was nice. She yelled a few more times that I was an abusive jerk or whatever, but she was still crying, so I felt her heart wasn't in it. I plan on speaking to a lawyer. I don't want to divorce her, but I don't know how healthy our relationship could possibly be after this. I know yelling like that was wrong, but I don't feel bad. And that is the part that makes me think that maybe I shouldn't be married to her anymore. for her sake and my own. I don't know what else to do. I'm so angry that she detonated C4 in every bit of our life. Now, unbelievably, below this, in a comment, OP said this: I believe I'm going to have to divorce her, and it's wrecking me. I don't want to. I still love her, but I don't know if I trust myself around her, and also not to use myself. I've been closer to relapsing this week than I ever have been. Okay, so that is it for update 3, and I've got to say, although it's kind of crazy and you could argue potentially hypocritical, given that you were the one that was angry at her in the first place for using the D word, divorce, now you're saying that you're going to have to divorce her. Things have changed a lot. I mean, it doesn't even necessarily matter that you are an ex-addict. Obviously, that makes it worse, but still, if she is bringing drugs into your home with your 2 young sons, then I'm sorry, but that is obviously grounds for divorce. Now, yes, you on top of that being an addict and being close to relapsing yourself, you've got to protect yourself as well as your sons, but it's terribly sad, but yeah, you have to threaten her with divorce at this moment. If things don't change, as you said, she's going to become like her mother, and your children are going to have a very, very tough time. Ultimately, she's got to go to rehab, sort herself out, and yeah, hopefully you can move on from this. But saying you're going to have to divorce her if she doesn't change, I think that's completely fair. Okay, so now moving on to the next update. This is update 3 now, posted on May the 12th. That is 3 weeks roughly from the first post. She was cheating. Right, before you read this, OP says, please know this is a vent post. I normally would never be like this, but I am beyond okay and need to get this poison out of my head before I go anywhere else with it. She was frickin' cheating. The drug dealing friend sent me frickin' videos of her dancing and grinding on this ugly hick looking dude. I am goddamn destroyed. The boys are staying with my mother for a few days and I'm taking the next week off work. I am so done. I've never been so angry in my goddamn life. She was so smug sending it. In case you don't realize you're replaceable to her. Well, the free ride stops here. I hope she can get on Medicaid for her Suboxone, LMFAO. I am done. I saved the video immediately and I'm going to see a lawyer ASAP. I can't tell anyone yet because I want to do this right. I mean, guys, imagine your wife's friend who has taken her down a terrible path is sending you videos of her cheating. Oh my goodness. Now, thankfully, my parents insisted on a prenup with what I at the time thought was an inhumane cheating clause. Never been cheated on before, and I feel like tearing my goddamn hair out. I genuinely never thought she would turn out to be such a scummy POS. I cannot handle this. I'm not physically able to handle this. I haven't been able to keep food down, and I drank for the first time in over a decade last night. Then I woke up and had to pour the rest down the drain because I'm about to spiral and my boys don't need both mum and dad in rehab right now. I'm so close to losing my goddamn mind. Also, believe what you want, but stop sending me private messages about how I should take down the posts or that posting about my personal relationship with my wife is wrong. Please, leave me be, it will not work. This is the only place I can talk about this stuff. That is obviously a message from OP to other Redditors who've been commenting and DMing him, I guess, giving him advice to take the post down or be a little bit more thoughtful. I completely understand. In his situation, he's clearly spiraling. So much bad stuff is happening. He just wants to vent. OP adds this as well, just a little bit of clarification about his children and potentially who his wife may have been cheating on him with. 2 of my 3 sons are stepsons, but I adopted them. They never had a father due to their bio dad being an absolute POS. My biological son is the youngest and was born to a girlfriend who is not in the picture and doesn't want to be. My sons are 9, 12 and 14. My wife had 2 jobs when I met her, though they were both terrible jobs, and I've been looking into finding her a better one. Now, when it comes to the dealer, she was getting the drugs from her friend, who is the woman, and a few of the men who she cheated on me with. Wow. Okay, let's move straight on to update 4 now. This was posted on July 19th, 2023. That's 3 months from the original post. Titled, My soon-to-be ex-wife is in the hospital after an unalive attempt, and I feel like a monster. Okay, wow. First of all, OP gives a quick summary about what has happened so far. The short of it is, OP was blind to his wife's addiction until she admitted it and went to rehab. While she was in rehab, I was sent evidence that she had been cheating often and with more than one person. I've been working on filing for divorce while she's in rehab. Not just for the cheating, but because with that on top of everything else and myself nearly sinking back into my own addiction due to the stress, I couldn't stand to even think of her anymore. and there's no healthy relationship that has room for that mindset. I honestly didn't want to be in a room with her again, to try mediation or counseling, due to the fact that the last time I was alone with her, I raised my voice, and at the time, even felt she deserved it. I of course now know that me doing that was terrible and could be considered abuse, yet that is another reason I should not be in a relationship with this woman. I think OP is being pretty harsh on himself there. He's being screamed at and he's not allowed to raise his voice. I mean, come on. I moved all of her belongings to our guest room, minus the pills I found hidden in her bedside table. I took pictures of those in their hiding spot, then flushed them. I also removed her from my bank account and credit cards. I spoke to my boys, explained the situation without demonizing their mother to the best of my ability, and they seemed to understand that I have no intention of abandoning them, and blood or not, they were my sons. Then she came home. The boys were, and still are, away at camp, a birthday present paid for by my mother. She was quiet, eyes on the ground after the moment I picked her up at the facility, all the way home. Once we got home, I led her to the guest room silently, and she didn't take it well, crying before she could even take the first step. Throughout the next couple of weeks, I let her get settled, and though I stayed carefully neutral, I know she could tell something was coming, but I wanted to do it as fairly as possible, and I tried to let her get used to being out before I said anything, as that was one thing I myself hated about when I left rehab. Everything was flying at me so fast, I didn't have time to breathe. Finally, I asked her to sit on the couch, and I began explaining to her that I do not believe I can continue being married to her, and that I wanted divorce. I should have known her reaction was all wrong. She didn't say anything at all. She only nodded and cried quietly as I spoke. I explained that I did not intend to hurt her, but I could not be married to her anymore, and that maybe both of us should focus on being the best parents we can be. I told her I had no intentions of kicking her out, and that because of our prenup, the divorce should be cut and dry, and she should be safe to begin looking for employment now. And once she has a job, I will help her find an apartment. At this, she stood and walked to her room. I let her, because I thought she must have been overwhelmed, and this talk could wait. She didn't come out at dinner time, and I weighed whether I should leave her alone or not. Eventually, I decided to knock on the door and ask if she was hungry. Long story short, she had smuggled pills into my house somehow, or she had a stash I was unaware of, and had an overdose, and was dead for several minutes in the ambulance, and she's in a medically induced coma because the doctors aren't sure exactly how much damage she's done to her brain from what they've said. I feel like an absolute monster, like I am the scum of the earth, like I should have just said nothing, like I should have just dealt with it. Just held it in and stayed. I am responsible for this, and it kills me. I may not have the same love for her as I did, but I do feel so very sorry for everything she's been through. It's killing me. I haven't told my sons yet, and I'm debating waiting until they're back from camp so they can have a little more time without this on their minds on top of everything else. Okay, now I think this is where this one gets really, really difficult, and I'm going to need some help in the comments down below, guys. Get your thoughts in. For me, I understand why OP is blaming himself for this, but I can't get behind him saying that it's his fault, that it's killing him because it was, his doing and he should have been nicer and let her be, etc, etc. Like, I get it. When you're in the situation, you probably think that, and OP is clearly a nice guy. And, even despite all of this, still clearly has a lot of love for his wife. And that is the reason why he's saying these things. Can he be the one to blame for this? Surely not. Surely not. Like, surely it's on her, right? And I get it. She's not in a place to be making these sort of decisions. But I don't know. It just feels wrong that he is blaming himself for his wife's actions. Let me know what you think down below. It's a very, very tough spot. What do you do in this situation? What do you do? There's no right answer, obviously, and it's an impossible spot, but still, I just feel bad that OP is saying that he was in the wrong and that it's his fault, because it just wasn't, in my opinion. Okay, someone asked OP below the 4th update, where is her family in all of this? Not my story to tell, he says, but she doesn't have much family alive, and the ones who are, she has no contact with. She has other friends, but I don't know which ones were enabling. They all know what's going on. I messaged all her friends, except the dealer, though clearly she knows now from messages she sent me. She hasn't shown up to the hospital though, possibly because she thinks I would throw her out, which I would be tempted to do, to be entirely honest. A couple of her other friends visit all the time. Yes, she's no contact with her mother, ironically because of her mother's addiction and bad treatment of her. The rest constantly insisted she should see her mother, and 2 times even took her boys to her mother's house without her permission. Now, somebody asked why he chose to say to her at that moment that he wanted a divorce. I wanted to do it while she was in rehab, but my therapist told me to reconsider, so I did. I was so angry when I found out about the cheating that I wanted to take her belongings to her dealer's house and leave them there, but I knew that was wrong. I knew that once my anger wore off, I would regret it. So now all I want is to get the divorce started and over with as soon as possible so that I can begin trying to pick up the pieces and move on with my life. On top of that, I didn't want to lead her on. I could tell that she knew something was coming because I can't even stand her touching me anymore. It makes me physically ill. If I had known she was going to try and unalive herself, I could have closed my eyes and grit my teeth and let her do whatever. But honestly, even now, after what she did, I know that isn't feasible for me. I still found myself wanting to start fights, to yell, and I know that I am not a strong enough person to be in a relationship with someone who hurt me that much, who disrespected me, my home, and my children that much, who took my own past experiences with drugs into account so little that she brought them into my home directly under the nose of myself and my children. Pun intended, by the way. This is as much kindness as I can afford to extend to her anymore, for my own mental health's sake. Then, 5 days later, OP added this on the state of his wife. She is not awake yet. I took the advice of some of the commenters and went to go and get my boys to see if they wanted to see their mother. I explained the situation to the best of my ability, age appropriate, and I asked if they wanted to see her. They all agreed eventually, but the eldest only wanted to go to support his brothers. I'm concerned about the anger he is building towards his mother, and I do intend to talk to him about it, but I also don't want to tell him how to feel or tell him that his feelings are bad and wrong. I was already working to get them into therapy, but I'm going to expedite that. OP added a little more after this on the cheating, giving some context around his wife's cheating as well, saying, there have been multiple pictures or videos of her dancing on and being appropriate with men since my initial post. I haven't blocked the friend because she sent me a large amount of proof of infidelity for the divorce. And in that post, the hick she was dancing on was a man. Perhaps people are confused because her woman friend sent the video. Perhaps the wording was bad. Yes, I do know that trauma is the gateway to addiction, as I am an addict and my own CSA from my uncle and general abuse from both my parents. I can't say I know what made her start using, but I can say I know she had a rough childhood and even worse teen years. And also, regardless of sexual identity, if I found out my wife was engaging in sexual acts with women, I would, of course, also consider it cheating. She was doing other sexually inappropriate things, but no, I didn't get any straight up sex tapes. I'd rather not go into it further, but I think you can get my drift. And now let's move on to the final post, posted on February the 13th, 2024, just a couple of weeks ago at the time of recording. That is 7 months after the first post, titled, My wife is dead. My wife is dead. I haven't updated in a while, and I'm sorry, but I'm sure you can guess why I wasn't feeling up to it. I know that everyone said that she was manipulating me or trying to make me stay with her, but honestly, even if that was the case, it didn't matter. Because the moment she woke up, we both started crying and talking, and we didn't stop for days. She went back into rehab for a little while, came out, and we did both couples and solo therapy for both of us. She seemed happy. She seemed better. And I'd hoped that the crazy was over, that we would just be happy again. I didn't update then because, frankly, I was scared how everyone would react. I don't do well at getting yelled at. She promised me that if anything happened, if there was anything she needed to talk to me about, she wouldn't hesitate. Everything was going well. And now, when I asked myself if there were signs she would go back or that she never stopped, the answer is no. Nothing except the fact that she had an overdose at her friend's house while I was working and died on her couch. The friend didn't even want to call an ambulance. Her boyfriend had to convince her to. I don't think either of them were arrested that day, but I know from the paper she was picked up a couple of months ago for selling. Everyone kept telling me to go to the police, and frankly, maybe I should have. But frankly, with the way the police act, it wouldn't do much good. Since then, I have been drifting terribly. I took up smoking again, something I quit before I got married because she hated the smell. I hate it now too. The smell, I mean, but the hand to mouth is nice. My sons are in therapy and are taking the loss as well as they could be expected to. The younger two talk about her a lot, but the eldest is mostly angry. I'm thankful he doesn't seem to want to say things to his brothers about it, but I always let him tell me anything he's thinking, even when it breaks my heart. I know that maybe everyone here has an idea of who my wife was, but one thing that you could never deny was how much she loved our boys. They were her pride and joy, absolutely everything to her. I miss her. I miss her so much it feels like a death rattle to breathe. There's never music when I get home anymore, and I hate it. I hate the quiet so much that some days before I go inside, I sit in the car and just cry because I know she won't be there. I haven't even been able to clean out her side of the bathroom yet. It hurts too much to think about getting rid of her perfume or her toothbrush. I haven't felt like writing for obvious reasons, but there's something that feels important now, so I will. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. On the way home from work recently, I caught myself calculating flower prices before I remembered that I have no one to give them to unless I put them on her grave. I remember being angry at how expensive roses were getting, and now that seems so silly. I just wanted to say, if you have someone you love, please cherish them. Do something extra nice for the person you love tomorrow, for my sake. Nothing crazy, but maybe you can dance around the living room to your song or read to each other. Something soft or good to let them know you're real and really, really there. I know that's so cliche and corny, and if Alex were here now, she would actively bully me, but sadly, the old guys were always right. Life is short. Isn't that a kick in the butt? Wow, what a truly tragic ending to this one. To be honest, I did not expect that. I could kind of gauge from OP's tone that there was a decent chance that she woke up from the induced coma, but coming back out, seemingly forging some sort of relationship once again with OP, at least having an amicable one. I mean, who knows if they were still going to get divorced or whatever. I'm sure they were, but, you know, on speaking terms, seemingly getting along. And then this, just brutal, absolutely brutal. Before this episode ends entirely, we do have some further thoughts to get to from OP to sort of, I guess, round this whole story off. But I've just got to say, it's just wow, absolutely shocking. It's just crazy. And yeah, I agree with what OP said. Life is short. Brutal, man. I guess the one thing that we have to do, all of us, me included, and you guys listening and watching right now, is do what OP said. Do something extra nice for the person you love tomorrow for OP's sake. I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to try. Because, yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it? Just like that, everything could be over. Absolutely heartbreaking. Somebody commented below this post, how about trying widow support on Reddit? OP said, I might. Honestly, thank you. Any kind of emotional support right now is going to be welcome. It's hard for me to be emotional around my boys because I hate to make them feel like they're ever in a position where they need to take care of me. The poor kids have been through enough without me losing it. But I've been such a mess that they've just caught me crying in my car more often than I'd like. Not to imply that I refuse to cry around them at all, just I hate them seeing exactly how much of a wreck I am. Someone else asked, are you in therapy? OP says they are, but it's a long process, especially considering I'm a former addict myself. The entire situation has aged me a decade in a year. Back to the crying, another editor said, as someone whose dad went through similar stuff, cry in front of them. It's okay. I can try, OP says. It just always makes me feel so guilty. I know I shouldn't, but I always just think to myself, what are you doing? You're meant to be taking care of them, not the other way around. I hate to think that they ever feel the need to walk on eggshells around me because I'm too much of a wreck to handle something. And I know that's a bad answer, but it's true. It just always comes around to the fact that those are my boys and I am their dad. I am supposed to be stronger than this for them. And I don't mean to imply that crying is weak or wrong. I just don't know how to turn it's okay to cry into it's okay for me to cry in my head. Then of course, I mostly mean now, after everything. At the funeral, there was no helping it. And for the first few days after that, I was such a mess. My parents came to stay with us because they were concerned I wasn't sleeping. That commenter replied, yeah, you can't help your feelings. But I'm sure your little dude has feelings. And when he sees you not exhibiting those same feelings, he may think that those feelings are wrong, but that could be my own baggage. Do what you need to for yourself, my dude. But that just stood out to me. OP replied, thank you, genuinely. I will keep that in mind. I hadn't fully considered that, if I'm being honest, but I can work on it. Now, to round off this story fully and conclude things, I'm just going to read a little bit more from OP that he left in the comments down below. Not defending her is so hard for me, but that was the first thing my therapist told me when I asked about my sons, that defending her to them wasn't going to help, and that all I could do was let them talk. My eldest is the only one who really rages about it, but the younger two will eventually, I'm sure. I am also angry in this helpless kind of way that hurts so bad I can't stand to think about it, because if she had just talked to me, I could have helped her, and she would still be here. I am a former addict myself, and I know I made so many mistakes with my wife, but I swear it was like everything was so good again. We slept in the same bed again and had dates. Oh my goodness me, I didn't realize that. Everything in my mind just wants to scream and beg to know why she would do this, and I can't. Wow. So you guys were romantically seeing each other again. Oh, that makes it even more brutal. I can't believe that. I hate it so much, OP continues, because I tried so very hard not to love her anymore when she was alive, and it didn't work then. I don't see myself doing any better now that she's gone, and it hurts even worse because when other people are mad or say negative things, I still want to defend her, to explain every little reason she had and why it wasn't all her fault. But in the end, it doesn't even matter if I do because she's gone. She won't be here to reap the benefits of that defense or even to care that I changed minds. She won't be here to be respected or disrespected. It feels pointless, but I still want to, and it makes me feel like a freaking moron. Okay, and there we go. That is it. That is where we're going to leave it. But before I go, I'm going to leave you guys with just my own short thoughts on this. I could comment on the family in general, on the wife, on the kids, on everyone else in this situation, and what we could possibly have done to have improved things and made this not happen. But I feel like realistically, without knowing the person and the people involved individually and really knowing them, as OP says, that's sort of pointless. So all I'll say is this. To OP, who I feel like I do know a little bit from just the general writing, your thoughts, how you've conveyed, what's happened and your own personal opinions and actions throughout this, I will say, I think it's terribly sad that you feel like any of this is your fault, because objectively speaking, it isn't your fault. Even if you weren't involved in the situation, you could argue that this was always going to happen. And I know that's a pretty tough thing to think about, but let's be realistic. Like, she was in a lot of trouble, and ultimately, you were the one that was actually helping her for a lot of this time. That is a fact. Now, the fact that you feel like you are to blame for any of this is just ultimately really sad when you were probably the person that was really helping her the most. I don't know what you guys think about this, but that is my main takeaway from this. OP is the one that's going to have to live with this for the rest of your life. And if you feel like you are genuinely to blame, that is horrible, because you're not. By the way, I completely understand why you feel the way you do, but it's not your fault, and it never was your fault throughout any of this. And I hope that for your own sake and your son's, OP, that you can move on from this and rebuild your life and find some positivity in the world. Am I the jerk for breaking up my engagement because my fiance isn't traditional enough? This was originally posted on the 3rd of March 2024, just 2 weeks ago at the time of recording. A little background. I am a 26-year-old woman, and I come from a relatively traditional Asian family, so sorry in advance for the bad English. My father owns a rice wine brewery, and my mother helps him with it. Even though I said my family is pretty much conservative, from what I've seen growing up, my father never told my mother to do all the chores, and he helps her with them. My father always says that he couldn't provide for the family alone and she has to work. That's why he never expects her to do everything in the house. Just like how they share the responsibilities to earn for our family, they also share responsibilities taking care of the household. Now enter my fiance, a 29-year-old man. We met on social media. He is an American who is currently working in my country. We've been dating for 3 years and have been engaged for 5 months. He always tells me he's looking for a traditional woman and wants to date with marriage in mind. He said that women who are able to take care of a household and a child rearing are admirable. And I always agreed with him without much thought because that is indeed an incredible feat, right? Well, he's working in a small university and I'm currently working in hospital. We saved enough to buy a house with a little bit of help from my parents, but we haven't moved in together yet because, Asian parents. But anyway, on my father's birthday last week, we talked about marriage once again. He doesn't think his income alone would be enough after our marriage, and it's giving him insecurities. So I suggested that I keep working after marriage, and that's not a problem because we'd be partners. My father also offered that we take over his brewery, and while I found the idea lovely, my fiance on the other hand seemed hesitant about it, but he agreed that I should keep my job. That was when the first problem started. I told him that since I have to work, then I expect he'll help with the household chores later. After I said that, he suddenly got irritated. He said that he'd been telling me he's looking for a traditional woman and that now he'd been catfished since I don't want to take care of every house chore because I'd still work anyway. Yeah, major red flags instantly. Whenever he said he's looking for a traditional spouse, I always thought that he'd also be a traditional spouse, aka being sole provider so I can focus on taking care of the house and child if we ever have any. But when I told him that, he said I'm a gold digger and materialistic like any other woman, even when I never once asked him to be a sole provider. He brought that up first. Mind you, I didn't even let him spend alone whenever we go out on a date. For example, if he paid for dinner, I paid for coffee and the movie. Even my father willingly offered his brewery if we want to take care of it as a means to provide for ourselves. So where's the gold I should have been digging here? That was when I actually put the ring down and I told him that I want to break up. I told him he's not traditional enough if he wants a fully traditional wife. I didn't want to deal with someone who could easily call me a gold digger because I want to share the chores. That hasn't even happened yet, in front of my parents. I can't help but think that if he could easily say what he said in front of my parents when we haven't even married yet, then he could say something a lot worse when we're married and alone. I went home alone and he texted me saying he was sorry and didn't mean what he said. He asked me to meet, but I don't feel like it. However, when I told my friends, most of them told me I was a bit too emotional, hasty and impulsive, that I might look like a jerk because I don't even want to meet him. His mother is now trying to talk me out of it and saying that I'm too old to act like this, and it's the culture barrier that's led us to this point. So here I am, trying to look for a new perspective. Am I in the wrong? Right, before I get into my thoughts on this, first of all, let's have a look at some relevant comments. Someone below this asks, what did your parents think? OP replies, my parents don't really speak English, so they can only understand bits and pieces of what was said. My father initially felt bad. He thought we fought because he brought up the business, but after I told them the actual reason, excluding the gold digger and materialistic remarks, they are fully on my side. And if I want to end it, then I should, they say. But they think that I should at least meet him once to end our relationship properly. Someone else said, be careful when you break up with him and bring someone along. Alright, thanks for your advice. My parents are coming and my father said he's not going to let me meet him alone. Thank you once again. Alright, from my perspective, there's no way on earth that OP can even be close to being the jerk here, right? It's just ridiculous. To be honest, it's barely even worth me commenting on. The comments summed it up well, and your fiance is clearly just a walking red flag, as I mentioned during reading that. I mean, what is he even doing? He wants a traditional partner, but he's not willing to pull his side of the deal. Also, what tradition even is this anymore? I don't even know. It's a bit of a weird dynamic, but you know what? If that's what he wants and he's not willing to do his half of it, then he obviously doesn't deserve it. Now, good news. We have an update. 9 days later, on March the 12th, we got this. First of all, I want to thank everyone who kindly replied and messaged me over the past week. I'm truly grateful for all the encouragement that I received. It really warms my heart in the midst of all of this mess. I want to admit that I too ignored quite a number of red flags that he displayed in the past few years, brushing them off as differences in our culture and upbringing. I thought I was being open-minded and accommodating, not knowing that I should have opened a deeper conversation regarding what I wanted to if I was to deepen our relationship. Many people kindly gave me praise in my previous post, but I actually feel rather undeserving to receive that because I also did so many stupid things that got me here. Okay, so now on to the real update. Last night I had dinner with him alongside my father after much thought and input I received from Redditors, friends and family. Long story short, he still didn't want to end our relationship. He actually apologized, saying he misspoke and wanted to fix his mistake. He said it was because he was too comfortable with me since I'm not a confrontational person, and I did help quite a lot with his chores, bringing side dishes, helping clean up his plates every now and then, etc. So he thought that I'll always be accommodating to what he wants. I also apologized, saying that I've never really brought this kind of topic up seriously, and I've never made sure we're on the same page whenever we did discuss this type of topic. He agreed that I should have told him before because that way it would never have got to this point, and then he kept bringing up my bad communication. I know it's my fault too, but it didn't feel good at all hearing that from him. Yeah, I mean, that's the definition of gaslighting there. You've semi-apologized even though you didn't need to, and he has just jumped on that. He is taking that, and he's using every last inch. Even if he'd admitted his faults and never spoke badly to me before, except for that one time, I still can't shake off my distrust of him. I don't know why, but what happened last week is like an instant feeling of repulsion. So, I returned the ring he gave, and I told him I'll return more than half of the amount that we used to buy our house. He initially refused the money, saying he wants to keep trying to win back my trust and me to keep in contact with him. But this morning he said I can transfer it because marriage is not really happening now, and he tried to prevent me from selling the house and also isn't telling our mutual friends that marriage is off the table. So I've just updated almost all of my group chats that now I'm single, and I'm here to tell everyone I'm single because my now ex-fiancé has a red flag that is so big China would be crying with envy. I feel like a jerk, to be honest, because it seems like my feelings for him were that shallow all along, but maybe reality hasn't hit me yet, but that's that. Okay, that is the end of the post. Let's jump into some comments. Somebody said, "You absolutely did the right thing. What does your dad think?" And I personally couldn't agree more. My dad is a typical Japanese father, so we don't talk a lot since I've grown up, but he's supporting my decision to cancel the engagement. He doesn't say much, but he actually looks quite happy since he hasn't been into it for quite a while now. Thank you for the kind words. I hope you and everyone around you is always kind like you are to me now. It certainly makes me feel better. Now, someone else was a little bit more scathing. Now, let me know in the comments if you agree with this, but they said, "You need to go to intense therapy so it doesn't happen again. You apologized to a man for not being his maid." Objectively, yeah, I guess OP kind of did, but I think this is a little bit too harsh. OP replied, "Thank you for the response. I didn't apologise for not wanting to be someone's maid, but for not being open and talking about what I want and expect in our relationship." I read in the comments of my previous post that many people pointed out that the conversation with this topic should have happened long before, and I do agree with that, and that is why I apologise. However, I will also keep working on myself, so thank you for your suggestion. I'll keep it in mind. Wow, what a polite way to kind of repel that question. Someone said you need to go to intense therapy so it doesn't happen again, and OP just says, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that, but thanks for your suggestion." So what happened to the house, someone asked. Did you go 50-50? Why does he get more? We went 45-45 and my father added the extra 10%. My father was the one who offered to give him 50% of the shares as an extra layer of protection. Now he can't complain and has no reason to contact me or my family. To catch a sea bream with shrimp, he said. Okay, so that is the first post done of this episode. Well, I say done because before we move on to the second story, I do just want to mention and bring up a couple of other comments that I've seen in the comments down below that I think are very, very interesting. Maybe along the lines perhaps of what a few of you guys might be thinking as well. A little bit like the other comment we saw, where people are saying that OP was just way too naive, and actually it was her fault that she landed herself in this situation, and she could have just dealt with this and brought it up a lot longer ago than she actually did. So someone in the comments down below actually called OP and her family spineless. But OP said this: "If you don't mind, I don't have a problem with you insulting me, but do not attempt to do that to my family. Not everything can be resolved by only being tough and formidable. I don't think it's stupid knowing when to be firm and then how we compromise for our final decision to avoid future problems. But I do think it's naive when one doesn't even consider that there are other ways to solve a problem other than butting heads and fighting. Stupid when they don't even try to understand the logic behind others' problem-solving method." Yeah, very fair, and I agree. She also continued to another similar scathing response, saying that is your prerogative right to insult us, but it's also within my prerogative right to ask you to stop. This kind of exchange is called conversation in Japan. I don't know what it's called in your country. Is that another cultural difference? If someone's uncomfortable, they should suck it up or don't go and talk in the first place? Excellent. My apologies for being so ignorant. Giving him more money than he deserved guaranteed me an excuse for cutting contact completely. I've compromised my decision. Social circles run differently here because breaking up an engagement or a divorce will always be a hot topic, and sometimes it affects you on an institutional level. Sometimes it will affect your career even more when you're a woman, Yes, there are some cases where people get fired because they got divorced because it will reflect badly on the company's image. Wow, now remember guys, this is happening in Japan as OP just revealed. Sometimes some companies go as far as giving paid leave and vacation to mend their employees' married life. I'm not breaking up, I'm cancelling an engagement. It weighs differently. You are naive to think that every society works like yours and your value is applicable to every part of the world without considering their societal circumstances. I'm not excusing it, but I'm not someone so important that I can change them overnight, nor do I want to sacrifice my family and my own reputation. I'm not delusional enough to think I'm the main character. If that's still spineless to you, then sure. I hope you do as well as him navigating your life here. Well, damn, OP just ate, that's for sure. Wow, what a way to just destroy a hater on Reddit. Fair play, I need to take a leaf out of her book. That was emphatic. I mean, it's obvious, but she is completely right. It is a societal difference. You know, she mentioned throughout it's a different country where this is happening, and you can tell. But I don't think she wanted to actually reveal that it was in Japan, but she did reveal it was Japan in the comments down below. And I think we all know how society and culture is completely different in Japan than in the Western world. I mean, who knows? Maybe one of you watching right now is from Japan, or at least is living in Japan. Let us know in the comments down below. How is life different, especially in regards to relationships? Because yeah, the context provided by OP there gives a lot more reasoning and makes me think, or makes me understand, I guess, how she acted a lot more than if this had happened in the Western world, I think. Even still, I think she acted fine the whole time, to be fair. And yeah, she's absolutely right. Is it really necessary to just fight and have a massive argument and potentially cause yourself years of like emotional turmoil? Or can you just sacrifice a little bit of money in the short term and then just be done with a relationship that you don't want to be in? That is obviously the better option. So yes, get your comments in down below. But that is going to do it for the first story. However, before we move on to story 2 in this video, I've got a little announcement for you. Well, I say announcement. I mentioned it in yesterday's episode, but I want to keep it on the down low. I don't want a lot of people knowing. I only want you, the core fan, the core watcher and listener of my channel, the one that is still listening and watching right now, despite the fact that we're over 10 minutes into this episode, to hear this. If you are a fan of relationship stories and drama, just like the one I've just read and the one I'm about to read, then you might be interested in my brand new channel, Redditor Extra, where I cover purely Reddit relationship drama stories. Obviously this right here is my main channel and it's not going to change, but I can't cover exclusively relationship stories every single day on this, despite the fact that at the moment I kind of want to. I'm really enjoying them. So for that reason, to be able to do that, I've started a brand new channel, Redditor Extra, where I'm going to do that hopefully every single day. I've already posted 2 videos over there, and by the time you're watching this, the channel may well have over 1,000 subscribers. You guys are loving it. So thank you very much for the support. If you want to check it out, it will be on the end screen of this one and also linked sneakily in the description, but nowhere else. So don't go telling people about this. I only want this to be for the core viewers, you listening to this right now. All right, let's get into story 2, and don't tell anyone I said that. Am I the jerk for being truthful and admitting that I find my wife unattractive after her surgery? This was originally posted on the 9th of March 2024. My wife had plastic surgery recently. We discussed it and I was against it. It wasn't my decision, and ultimately though, I had no say. She looks weird now. She had the fat sucked out of her face, lip fillers, a neck lift, other stuff I don't really get. She gives me uncanny valley vibes now. It freaks me out. She's fully healed now and she wants us to go back to normal, like me initiating sex. I have done so, but not as much as I used to. And when I do, I try and make sure there's very little light. It's been a few months and I kind of dread having to look at her. Obviously she's noticed. She's been bugging me to tell her what's up. I've tried telling her I'm just tired from work or that I'm run down. Really anything except for the truth. She broke down and asked me if I was having an affair. I said that I wasn't. She asked to look at my phone. I unlocked it for her and handed it over. I wasn't worried about her finding anything because there's nothing to find. She spent an hour looking through it and found nothing. She asked me to explain why I changed. I tried explaining that I just wasn't that interested right now. Nothing I said was good enough for her, so she kept digging. I finally told her the truth. I wasn't harsh or brutally honest. I just told her that her new face wasn't something I found attractive and that I was turned off. She asked if that's why I turn off all the lights now, and I said yes. She started crying and said that she needed time alone. She went to stay with her sister. I've been called every name in the book since this happened. Her sister said I'm a piece of trash for insulting my wife's looks. Her friends all think I'm the jerk. I tried not to say anything. I can't force myself to find her attractive. I still love her, but her face is just weird now. She looks like the blue alien from the Fifth Element. Now, I have no idea what the blue alien from the Fifth Element is, so here's a picture. Oh my gosh. I mean, this is one of those times where if you are listening to this on a podcast platform, you should probably head over to YouTube. Or, to be fair, just look up blue alien from Fifth Element yourself. Yeah, I wouldn't really want that as a wife, but I do kind of get where OP is probably coming from. Right, let's get into some comments. OP has actually added that she isn't hideous, she just doesn't look like herself anymore. Remember when the girl from Dirty Dancing got a nose job and no one recognized her? Someone asked her, do you love her because of her looks or who she is? And OP says that love and sexual attraction are two different things. I do think that is completely fair, to be honest. You can still love someone, but be less sexually attracted to them after they do this to themselves. I kind of get it. Someone else commented, how was getting these surgeries discussed and what did she say when you protested? She said she wanted to get this stuff done. I said I'd prefer it if she didn't. I pulled up pictures of celebrities before and after and showed her how weird they look. Meg Ryan, the girl from Glee, the girl from Lip Sync Battle, she said that she'd feel better about herself if she got it. We talked and argued about it for a year before she did it. Started with lip fillers and ended with buccal fat removal. Someone else responded saying you're shallow, but OP said, if I get a snake tattoo across my face, is she allowed to say she isn't a fan? Great point, and I wouldn't for 1 second say that OP is being shallow here. Someone else asked about money and age. We are both in our mid-30s. Her mum gave her the money as a gift. OP finally says that ultimately he has not stopped loving his wife, he's just not attracted to her face. Now the person who's compiled all of this stuff and posted it on r/best of Redditor updates, where of course the majority of these stories are posted, if you didn't know that, that is where I find them, on Reddit, has said that OP has responded to a lot of comments. Most of them are people who can't seem to wrap their heads around the fact that he does love her, but isn't currently attracted to her. Some bring up, well, what if she was in a car accident and needed plastic surgery? Would you hate her then? Well, she wasn't in an accident. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that's completely fair. She has chosen to do this to herself. You said beforehand that you didn't want her to do it, and now you're less sexually attracted to her. That's fine. It doesn't change the fact that you still love her, and OP is not for 1 second saying that he loves her any less now, but she's changed her physical appearance that you were attracted to in the first place. Ultimately, physical appearance is a big part of attraction. I think everyone could admit that. Not saying that, you know, personality and love doesn't come into it, but it just has to be. So yeah, I think he's completely right to say, well, I'm less attracted to you, you've changed your appearance. I mean, I might get hate for this in the comments down below, but I would go as far to say that it's the same as if somebody, now, naturally, I'm not saying if there was any medical reason involved or whatever, say your partner put on loads and loads of weight and just got obese, I think you'd also be allowed to say, I'm less attracted to you, you've changed your physical appearance. That's a little bit more debatable. It really is. But I think that that's fair. Again, as long as it's natural and there's not a medical reason for it. Let me know in the comments down below, guys. Do you agree with that? That is contentious. It really is, but I want to hear your thoughts. Anyway, let's get into the update. This was posted 3 days later. My wife came home yesterday and we finally had a long talk. She told me that the reason she had the surgery was because her mum and sister talked her into it. They convinced her that she was starting to look old and that I would find someone else to be with if she didn't do something. That was why her mum gave her the money for the operations. Her mum and sister look like Bruce Campbell in Escape from LA. Again, if you can't see this, if you're on a podcast platform or you're just not watching right now, just, yeah, imagine someone with loads of Botox and their skin is just pulled tight and it just doesn't look natural at all. I mean, personally, that goes far to say it's pretty disgusting. But yeah, that now is making more sense to me. If her mum and sister already look like this and were the ones persuading her to do it, I can understand why she might have done it. OP continues, they are the very last people on the planet that should be telling anyone to get plastic surgery. I used some of the comments I read on my post as talking points. I told her that I loved her and that she was the person that I wanted to spend my life with. I told her that the surgery would take a while longer to settle down and that as I got more used to her new face, I would learn to appreciate it. Fair enough. She asked me if I wanted her to see if she could get it reversed. I almost screamed at her. The last thing in the world I want is for her to F up her face more than it already is. I asked her if she could please just leave it and let me get used to it. Imagine that regret, by the way. Getting loads of facial surgery and then saying, oh, I actually want it reversed. Jeez. We talked for about 3 hours and we decided that her mum and sister would not be a part of any decisions in our life going forward. She's going to leave her face alone and give me a chance to get used to it. We're going to look for a marriage counsellor and maybe individual counsellors for each of us. I'm going to make an effort to show her every day how I still find her desirable, and she is going to make an effort to believe me when I tell her that I love her the way she is. We're going to talk to her mum and sister and tell them that we're taking a break from them. We're going to block them, get our stuff together before we allow them back into our lives. Thank you to everyone who tried to help me. I would like to add that I did not think that there were that many guys out there with a weird blue squid lady fetish. It isn't for me, but you do you. Oh, I understand. OP is referencing the first person he said from, Fifth Elemental or something. I guess some people said in the comments down below that they actually quite like that look. Yeah, weird. Right, let's round things off with some comments. Someone said, many tough elements here. Her self-esteem, body dysmorphia, being influenced by her mum and sister, you losing attraction for now, which leads us to the fifth element. Oh god, saying that was funny if they do say so themselves. Glad you're making the effort and continuing to love your wife. OP replies, I can't stop loving her. Someone else asked, did you use the movie references when talking with your wife? I did not. The closest I got was pointing out that a bad haircut and a kimono and I could pass for a skinny version of Associate Bob. And again, here is a picture. Oh, I guess OP was kind of referencing the fact that he's not the best looking, but that's not the most important thing. Yeah, I mean, crazy haircut, I've got to say. Someone else said, her mum and sister will at least look shocked when you break it to them. Oh, gosh. But OP says, no, they won't. They have the facial mobility of bilateral stroke victims. Wow. Bilateral stroke victims. I might have to use that as an insult, by the way. That is phenomenal. Finally, OP has said, we're going to work at it. There's a long road ahead. I will spend the rest of my life showing her she is the woman I want. Well, there you go. Fair play, OP, is all I can say to that. Because ultimately, something's happened there to the person you love that you really don't like. And you're going to have to deal with that. Because ultimately, you're the one that looks at her every day. So that's on you. I do feel, though, like he is right. And I think he accepts that attraction can build over time. I do think the most important part of, personally, this is part of like sexual attraction or attraction in general is the way you feel about somebody, less their physical appearance. I mean, I think that's kind of obvious, maybe. I mean, maybe some people don't agree with me there, but emotionally, how invested you are in somebody and how they make you feel and your relationship with them is way more important than how they look, even if they're like a 10 out of 10. Doesn't matter. I mean, a 4 out of 10 that you really get on with is way more attractive than a 9 out of 10. It was just horrible. I think we can all agree with that. 10 out of 10, though, is different, let's be honest. I'm maybe joking. But yeah, in all seriousness, hopefully these guys just can get through this. I feel bad for your wife now, OP, because she was just pushed into something that maybe she didn't actually want to do, and now she's regretting it. It's not the greatest situation, but yeah, as I said, get some counseling, give it some time. I think you'll be all right. Am I the jerk for going live on TikTok in spite of my boyfriend telling me not to? I know it sounds really dumb, but I genuinely can't tell if I'm in the wrong or not anymore. For context, my boyfriend and I, we are 20 years old, have been together for almost a year. I have a decent following on social media, 200,000 on TikTok, even though I don't post much anymore. Recently, I decided to go live on TikTok to talk about the upcoming elections in my country. Now, I never go live, but I figured this was an important topic and I wanted to use my most popular platform to discuss it. I told my boyfriend beforehand, since it felt kind of embarrassing, and I wanted to update him on why I was about to do it. He seemed weirdly annoyed, but ultimately agreed. During the live, he kept messaging me in private to stop because weird men were flirting with me in the chat. Yeah, it's true. There were some men complimenting or trolling, but I didn't engage, and my mods and I were constantly blocking them. I also kept making comments like, if you comment weird stuff, you'll get blocked, to indirectly reassure him. At one point, I got a compliment on my eyebrows, and I replied with a quick thank you, then went back to elections. My boyfriend saw that and started to argue with the chatter, asking me in private if I knew him. Now, I didn't, but my boyfriend went on his profile and saw it was a guy. He had no profile picture and a random username, so I didn't know. He got really mad and the chat got crazy, so I stopped the live. I didn't answer my boyfriend's text right away since I didn't want to address it while live, but I reassured him in private afterwards. The next day, I decided to go live again since it was the day before the elections. I was on FaceTime with my boyfriend when I told him, and he got more annoyed, saying he hates it when I go live, but that he doesn't care anymore and I can do whatever. I knew he was upset, but I felt he was being unreasonable, so I went live despite his disagreement. 5 minutes in, he called me saying he can't take it anymore, initially claiming it's indirect cheating because of the men in the chat, but then admitting he's embarrassed because going live on TikTok is low life and he can't have his girlfriend doing that. He also said I was negligent towards his feelings for not pausing or stopping the live to respond to his messages the other day. He felt disrespected because not going live was a small favour he asked, yet I chose to be selfish. I explained that I know TikTok lives are associated with cringe, but I wanted to use my most popular platform to speak on elections and encourage voting. I apologised for not responding right away the other day, thinking it was best to wait until I ended the live, given that I was at peak viewers and mid-answering questions about candidates, and it's rare that I use my platforms like that anymore. However, he still thinks I'm in the wrong, and I don't want to make him feel disrespected. So, was I being selfish for still going live? Am I the jerk? Okay, no doubt about it, your boyfriend is just horribly insecure and jealous. I mean, the stuff he's doing just makes no sense at all to me, and he just seems like a terrible person to be doing these sort of things. It's extremely controlling, extremely manipulative. He's also gaslighting you a lot as well. You know, if you've got 200,000 followers on TikTok, you can make some decent money from that. And, you know, who knows? You might want that to be a full-time job pretty soon. I mean, that's more followers than I've got on TikTok, that's for sure. So fair play to you. Him saying it's cringe and that, you know, people are just flirting with you and therefore that's cheating. What? You're just doing it because you're passionate about it and you want to speak about things you care about. It doesn't really matter if it's politics or whatever it is. You're doing it and you enjoy doing it. But he's saying, no, stop doing that. It's cringe. I don't think you're a good match for each other, but that's because I just don't think he's a good person. And also, like, especially on TikTok, but more just on the internet in general, there are always going to be creeps on these sort of platforms. I mean, if you go into any TikTok live with any girl, I mean, they don't have to be good looking, let's be completely honest. You will get a load of creeps. That's a bit harsh, but it is true. You just go in the comments, you just see there would be so many creeps. So it's always going to happen. It's sad, but it's true. So your boyfriend just got to go. Now for our next post. Am I the jerk for reminding my friend that she married for intelligence and look where it got her? I am a 35-year-old woman, and I met my husband, Vince, who is 36, after he saved me from drowning at a pool party when I was 18. I took him out for lunch the following week to thank him for saving me, and we soon fell in love and began dating. Wow, what a way to meet someone. At the time, Vince worked a blue-collar job while I was studying in university. We ended up getting married, and Vince supported me throughout my entire education up until I got my PhD. Vince always told me that he wanted to study at university, but had learning disabilities that made it difficult for him to study in a classroom. At times, he was embarrassed by the fact that he had to work twice as hard compared to people around him, but I always found that to be admirable about him. When I finished my studies and got a well-paying job, I convinced Vince to convince his dream. That is wow, what a tongue twister. I'm leaving that in, just so you guys know that I do sometimes mess up. Convinced Vince, wow. All right, let me try that again. When I finished my studies and got a well-paying job, I convinced Vince to give his dream of studying another go. Last year, he was finally accepted into a nursing program at our local university. He's working hard to achieve his dream, and I'm incredibly proud of him. Last week, my friend Alba, who is 36, came to visit with her son so our children could play together. Alba was my roommate during my first year in university. She began dating her husband, Leo, around the same time I started dating Vince. Leo was an obnoxious law student who later on became an even more obnoxious attorney. He was a know-it-all who prided himself on his intelligence, which for some reason attracted Alba. At the time, Alba would sometimes tease me that I could do better than Vince and would offer to set me up with one of Leo's law school buddies, but I'd always refuse, and she eventually dropped the subject. Alba and Leo are currently going through a nasty divorce that stems from him cheating on her. Quite frankly, he is dragging her through the mud and is using connections to try and leave her as penniless as possible. As we were chatting and catching up, Alba began to express concern over the fact that my eldest son, who is 7, was recently diagnosed with dyslexia. Alba began telling me how she's worried that my son will be academically challenged, like his father, and what that could entail for his future. Now, before I could respond, she told me how I should have married someone smart while I had the chance, so I would have kids like hers. Alba's son is an incredibly bright boy and a straight A student. I told Alba her advice was unnecessary and reminded her where marrying for intelligence got her. I then proceeded to tell her that I would rather have my son grow up to be an honest, hardworking person like his father than an academically gifted jerk who wasn't smart enough to know sleeping with his secretary could have consequences on his marriage like her husband. Alba was deeply hurt by what I've said and stormed out with her son. Some mutual friends are now chiming in and are telling me that I was too harsh on her for using her failing marriage to prove my point, and that I should apologise. Now, before I get into my thoughts about this one, guys, OP has given a little update. She says, I wanted to address a couple of things. Many of you asked in the comments why Alba and I remain friends despite her previous remarks. Alba and I grew apart during our third year in university. We only remain friends by association since we have a lot of shared mutuals. We became close again after our sons started playing basketball together at the local community centre, and then became friends. I figured that becoming a mother made her more mature, and she didn't give me any reason to suspect otherwise. I've decided to send her a message saying that the way she spoke about my husband and son was unacceptable, and therefore she is no longer welcome in my home. However, I don't want our sons to lose their friendship, and therefore I am willing to remain civil around the kids and still organise playdays. She hasn't replied to me yet, but I truly hope she loves her son enough to put her ego aside and remain civil for the sake of our kids. I'm yet to notify Vince about the entire situation, since he's vigorously studying for an important quiz that's coming up next week, and I know that if he heard what Alba said about him and our boy, it would make him upset, and he wouldn't be able to continue studying properly. Unless something crazy happens in the meantime, I'll probably update him next week after he's done with the quiz. Okay, there we go. That is the update. No way, OP, you can possibly be in the wrong here. She said some pretty horrible things to your face about the people you love the most, and she's the one that is saying you need to apologize to me. I don't think so. To be honest, I think the reason that she is saying these things is because she knows that you're right, and that, yeah, she did choose a bad husband and you chose a good one. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. And also, hasn't her point been proved wrong by the fact that her relationship with her husband hasn't worked out and yours has, in that she's saying that you need to have a kid that's more intelligent? Well, do you really? Because are they gonna grow up to be a better person? Not necessarily. I mean, it sounds like your kid's just a nice guy, and who knows? Her kid could just turn out like her ex-husband. Don't get me wrong, I think there's nothing wrong with going for somebody because they're intelligent. That's an extremely admirable and attractive quality, but it's not the be-all or end-all, that's for sure. I think there are some things that are more important. I mean, we all know somebody who's incredibly intelligent, and we can never say they're not, but they're a dick as well. I mean, we all know somebody like that. Oh, and also, good luck to Vince on his quiz. Best of luck, my friend. Okay, now for our third Am I the Jerk post. Am I the jerk for telling my son I have no plans to motivate or support him after he is an adult? My oldest kid is a good kid, but kind of lazy. His mum has always protected him. She has her reasons. Her first husband and child passed away about 22 years ago. 2 years after that, we met, fell in love, got married, and had a kid. Unfortunately for me, our son's birth was a catalyst for a regression for her. He could do no wrong. If I tried to punish or even just correct him, she'd get upset and start crying or fight with me. If he found something difficult and I wanted him to work through it or try harder, she would step in and tell me to back off or actually just do it for him. This led to our divorce. I wanted to be a father, not a spectator. She fought so I wouldn't get custody. I ended up with visitation. My kid wouldn't do anything though. He wouldn't bring his homework over, and all he wanted to do was play video games. If I didn't let him, he had tantrums. It was exhausting. And she would always back him up. It was always my fault. I remarried to my wife, Diane. We have 2 children and are doing our best to raise them right. My son stopped coming over when he was 14. I still invite him, but he rarely responds. My child support just stopped. His mum has been giving it to him to do whatever he wanted for the last 3 years. Not my problem. But he just called me to see if I could help him with money. I asked what for. He said that his mum can't give him the allowance he is used to. I asked if he was going to be attending some sort of post-secondary school. He said no. So I told him to get a job. His mum has lost her mind. She said she would take me back to court so her poor baby can live his life his way. I wish for the odds to be ever in her favor, and I hung up. Is that... Okay, that's just weird because I'm rewatching the Hunger Games at the moment. By the way, a great set of books, and potentially an even better set of films. That's up for debate. Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, now that he is an adult, I never have to talk to her again. It's too bad because I loved her very much. Not anymore. My son asked me to help him find a job. I said I would. I told him to send me his resume. I've been waiting 3 weeks for it. He called me yesterday to see if I'd made any progress on finding him one. I said he never sent me his resume. He got upset that I hadn't reminded him. It was one thing. I told him that I wasn't going to motivate him to do anything, that I would be here if he needed help, but that it would never be money again. I let him come over and helped him with a resume. I also taught him about the trades or a community college. He's beginning to understand how effed his future is now that his mum cannot do everything for him. He's upset with his mother now because he doesn't have life skills. She is mad at me for showing him the truth. Okay, now this one is I actually think it's relatively controversial, and I think it's up for debate because of what has happened, OP, to your ex-wife in her life. I don't think that she can be blamed for the way that she has chosen to deal with and raise her son, your son. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear, and it's not ideal for you to be in a relationship with someone who is parenting your child like this, because we can all admit, we know that's not the right way to raise someone or to parent someone. Just let them have everything. We know that's going to lead to them being extremely entitled and just a golden child that will have no motivation. But put yourself in her shoes. Of course she's going to baby him. Her husband and child passed away 22 years ago, and she's obviously still got that trauma with her, and it's going to be with her for life. I can't exactly blame her for being really protective over her kid, even though, and to be fair, I'm sure even she would probably say that it's not the best thing for him. She just wants to make sure that he has everything he wants, that he's alive, and that, yeah, you know, that he just lives a nice life, I suppose. Now, yeah, for you, OP, it's obviously not ideal, and I understand why this relationship didn't work out for you. And I agree, by the way, with the things that you're doing and saying to your son. It's also very nice that you're still there for him. But yeah, you can't just give him loads of money and then just get a job for him. That's not helping. But I just do feel bad for your ex-wife, is all I'll say. Now for our final post of this episode. Am I the jerk for calling out my sister-in-law in front of everyone when she wouldn't stop making comments about me trying to be a sexy baby? I am a 27-year-old woman. I am very short. I'm 4'9" and I'm under 100 pounds. I don't want to complain about being small, but there are a lot of people out there, especially other women, who will not take us seriously, are judgmental, make snide comments, assume attraction to us is nefarious, etc. A lot of comments that imply we're not real women. I'm used to it and I usually let it roll off my back. But there's a new one that's picked up momentum that I guess stems from a TV show where a girl is putting on a childish act and she says, "I am a very sexy baby," in a cutesy voice, and there's a lot more to it than you can just Google. Yeah, I won't be doing that, but if you want to, guys, be my guest. My sister-in-law Cassie has picked this up and has been using this against me. I can't wear a cute outfit without her coming down on me and chiding me for buying into the whole sexy baby thing when I'm just wearing an outfit. I'm just trying to be me. God forbid I wear a shorter skirt or bows or anything I think is cute. It's like I'm not allowed to wear cute or sexy things because I'm petite, so I'm automatically seen as trying to be a sexy baby when I'm not. I've asked Cassie to stop or drop it, and she maintains that I'm the one opening myself up to judgment and I should dress my age. This came to a head last weekend when we were in my auntie's backyard at the pool. I took off my wrap so I could hang with my feet in the pool with my cousins, and Cassie immediately said, "You're a very sexy baby," at me, and twirled imaginary pigtails. I raised my voice and I said, "That's a really weird thing to keep saying. What is your problem with me? Why do you keep bringing up that I'm small?" She started to turn red and yelled back again that I'm the one that's choosing to walk around looking like the, quote, sexy baby. I said that I'm literally just wearing a bathing suit, a one-piece halter, and I asked her what I should be wearing instead if that's such a problem. She yelled back that I should dress like a grown adult and to stop trying to cause a scene in front of everyone. I said whatever, and I just tried to ignore her. Later on, we ended up inside at the same time, and she came down on me for calling her out in front of everyone. I told her to stop trying to make me feel bad for being small. I didn't choose this body. She rolled her eyes and told me to grow the F up, and that trying to start trash with her is even more proof. I'm at a loss here, and I'm starting to just not want to be around my family because of her. It's not enough that I get this trash from women at work, at the gym, basically anywhere. Now it's in my family. So, am I the jerk for calling her out? Or even for just, I don't know, existing in my own body? No, of course not. You're absolutely not the jerk for this. And it's good that you called Cassie out on this, because if you didn't, who knows? This might have just carried on. Well, it definitely would have carried on, but it might actually have got even worse. So yeah, you had to say something. And to be honest, I actually hadn't ever really thought about this. Obviously, I'm not a small petite girl, as much as I potentially would love to be.
What do you mean by that?
But it's, you're raising awareness for these sort of people, and you might think I'm being sarcastic here. I'm actually not. I would never think about this sort of thing, but some of the stuff that you're saying about, just kind of being objectified because of your height and your size, I can understand it, but I hadn't actually ever thought about it. So yeah, I appreciate you actually saying that to somebody like me who that just hasn't really ever crossed my mind. So respect for writing this, and respect for telling Cassie to F off. Am I the jerk for hiding my boyfriend's anime body pillow while my parents were visiting? My boyfriend, who is 32, and I, a 27-year-old woman, have been together for a year. He's only met my parents once over the holidays last year because they live pretty far away. They've been visiting this past week, and since he and I just moved in together, they were excited to see our new place and get to know my boyfriend a little more. We have an extra bedroom, and this has become my boyfriend's gaming room for the most part. But we agreed when guests come over, it would become a second bedroom. He really likes video games, and anime in particular, so he has a lot of toys and artwork that he's collected over the years from different games and such. One thing he has is this anime body pillow that features a sexy anime girl on it. He also has a mousepad for his gaming computer that resembles a busty anime girl. Before my parents came over, I asked him to take down his toys and stuff so they could be comfortable. I was upset to see that he left the body pillow and the mousepad in place. I don't really feel comfortable with either item, but he's really into anime, so I've always kind of left it alone. But I absolutely didn't think it was appropriate to leave it in there when my parents would be staying over. I took the cover off the body pillow and put the pillow in the closet, and I put the mousepad in a drawer in our room. When my parents arrived and we showed them to their room, my boyfriend noticed the missing pillow and mousepad. Later, when we were in bed, he brought it up to me and asked me why I hid them. I told him I didn't think my parents would feel comfortable with those things in the bedroom, and when they leave, we can put them back. He then got really upset. He told me that he feels like I'm ashamed of his interest in anime. He said he spent his whole life feeling like people think he's weird for being into anime, and he didn't expect his own girlfriend to be, quote, just like everyone else. The next day, I noticed him taking some of his manga books off our bookshelf and putting them into a box. I asked him why, and he said something like, I'm putting them away so you don't have to look at them anymore. I feel really bad. I feel like I hurt him, but I just really didn't think my parents would feel comfortable sleeping in a room with those items. But now he's just acting so distant and cold, and he's not really engaging with my parents at all. They keep asking me what's wrong, and I don't know what to say. So, am I the jerk? Okay, before we get into the update here, let's jump into the top comment on that original post. Somebody said, there's a huge difference between anime and video game decorations and sexualized anime content. A busty mousepad and a sexy body pillow would most definitely make anyone feel uncomfortable. I get that it's his space too, but I think a small amount of compromise for a limited time isn't a problem at all. He might see it as you being embarrassed of his interests, but the reality is most people aren't comfortable with sexualized decor. It's not about anime at all. You're not the jerk here. He really needs to have more consideration for others. And the original poster replied saying, that's exactly my feelings too. There's other stuff in the room that's anime and gaming related that was left up, but it was more the sexual stuff that I didn't feel comfortable leaving out for my parents. Okay, let's get straight into the update for this one. Thank you for all the responses, and sorry it took me a few days to update. I was waiting for my parents to leave so I could talk to my boyfriend about all of this. I read through the comments and it kind of validated something I already was feeling. Sexual decor aside, the way he acted the next day when he was putting the books away really bothered me. I ended up explaining the situation to my parents, and they weren't exactly thrilled by his reaction either. I got the feeling after this trip that they don't really approve of him, which is neither here nor there.
I'm 27 and I'm old enough to make my own choices. But above everything else, my parents mean a lot to me. I never get to see them, and it was important to me that my boyfriend would present and treat them well while they were here. After they left, I drove them to the airport. My boyfriend refused to come. I came back from the airport and found a couple of trash bags outside the door. Well, it turns out that once I left, my boyfriend started throwing all of his anime things into these bags. I asked why, and he said something along the same lines as before, that clearly his interests weren't welcome in my home, and he'd keep them in his car until he figured out what to do with them. Goodness me, what an overreaction from this guy. I kinda snapped. I've been keeping it together all week for my parents, but I had enough at this point. I told him I never asked him to get rid of his anime stuff, just that it wasn't appropriate for my parents while they were staying with us. I told him this reaction is unfair and he's being manipulative. I told him that this week was supposed to be about him getting to know my parents, but he was too fixated on this anime issue to even spend any real time with them. He then called me manipulative for making him believe that I was cool with his love for anime for the past year, when I was clearly ashamed of it. He also said he didn't want to be a part of a family that doesn't appreciate anime. We went back and forth for a while, and then I told him we needed space. I wasn't even really planning that, but it came out and it felt like the right thing for me. Well, he then started crying a lot and apologizing, and immediately tried to take back what he said, but I was just done at this point. He left eventually, and now I'm here in this apartment alone. Well, and the mouse pad and body pillow. He left those behind. Anyway, I don't really know if we're broken up officially or what, but it seems to be heading that way. I'm just feeling awful, and I almost wish this all happened before my parents visited because I feel like it tainted the whole trip. But yeah, thanks for the replies, guys, and for helping me open my eyes a bit. Yeah, I completely agree with every comment that's happened so far. Obviously, you're not the jerk here at all, OP. And if this guy cannot understand the difference between, you know, having a nice passion for anime, having a few collectibles, etc., which is obviously completely fine, a passion shared by, who knows, maybe even billions of people, but yeah, definitely millions and millions of people in the world, and then having sort of, you know, clearly sexual stuff that yeah, it's anime related, fine, but it's still sexual stuff, then that is just weird, and that just shows that he just has no concept of reality, I suppose, and yeah, the fact that he cannot understand the difference between those two things is extremely concerning, not just right now in the short term, but going forward. I would definitely break up with this guy. I don't even think I need much more context than this story alone. If my partner didn't realize the difference between anime and then having like a massive anime sex doll, and me not wanting that to be in the, well, I mean, it's not a sex doll, but you know what I mean, me not wanting that to be in the same room my parents are going to sleep in, I'd probably be like, okay, well, you're just a bit stupid then, aren't you? Sorry. I actually do agree with some of the comments. Like, it is just a bit weird having a sexy anime body pillow and then like a busty anime girl mouse pad anyway. I feel like that is just a bit weird. I'm all for having like models, anime models, in terms of, you know, just like characters that you like, or yeah, you know, like Overwatch, for example. That's a game that I used to really enjoy. A lot of people have sort of figures from that game, Legos, etc., whatever it is, that sort of stuff. But yeah, just the sexual stuff anyway, when you have a girlfriend living with you, I do think is a bit dodgy. I don't know if you guys agree with that. I think it's just weird. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one down below. Do you think OP should just ride this one out and come to an agreement in the short term with her boyfriend? Or do you think it's more of a bigger issue here? Because I definitely do.